Welcome in. It's the Friday edition of Three Man Front. Pat Landrum, Molly with you today. Conrad is taking the day off. He's celebrating because the Yankees will now allow facial hair. So he's excited. He's taking the day off. So now he can pursue his dream of being a New York Yankee because he has facial hair.
That's really big news, though. I saw that this morning.
I'm happy for him.
Wow.
It's all over the place.
It took until 2025, but the Yankees, they're coming around.
Way to go, Steinbrenner. Steinbrenner's boy finally catching up with the times. Welcome to the 21st century.
Do you think Conrad has made the border yet to enter into O Canada?
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Sorry.
Too soon. Too soon.
It's the Canuck in the room.
Well, you know, it was one of those nights. How many times, Landrum, have we come on to do a show where you and I have invested a lot of time and effort and energy on whether it's U.S. men's soccer, now U.S. men's hockey, and we come up thoroughly disappointed.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I told you yesterday on the show, I stated it. I said, hope this isn't like when I get really fired up for U.S. men's soccer, and it's exactly what happened. Heart ripped out last night.
It was a great hockey game.
It was.
I'm not a hockey aficionado, but I enjoyed watching it.
I watched every second of it. That's the only time I've ever done that in my life.
To watch a full hockey game.
I'm proud of you.
A full hockey game. I watched the coverage. I watched during the intermissions, everything. The pregame, the postgame.
So what did you think about the national anthems?
I thought the Boston Pops did a wonderful job. I thought the singer, cannot recall her name.
Did you know she changed the words to their national anthem as a protest against Donald Trump?
I did not know about that.
No.
Yep, she changed part of the lyrics.
What did she change?
Okay, I have to look it up.
The Canadian did.
Yeah, the Canadian changed a couple of lines, or I think it was one line, basically talking about their sovereignty or something. It was a direct shot, and she just said that she was not going to stand by and allow, the sovereignty of Canada to be questioned.
Well, she should have changed more words because I missed it in the song.
Well, let's listen to the first little bit of the O Canada last night and see if you can catch the boos in the background. This was pregame last night of the Four Nations Championship.
Oh, Canada, terre nos arieux, true patriot love that only us command.
So there you go. There's a little snippet. Not as many boos as I thought you would be able to hear.
No, they were bleeding through the broadcast, so I wonder what they sounded like there inside the building. Probably a good bit louder. You know, my favorite Canadian national anthem ever was sung by Anne Murray.
Anne Murray.
You remember Anne Murray?
I do remember Anne.
That was during the Braves and the Blue Jays World Series, I think.
Okay.
That was not Anne Murray.
Well, one thing's for sure, the Tkachuk brothers, they came to play. Of course, Matthew did not play at all last night, right? Because he was hurt.
Yeah, he was hurt.
Yeah. But his brother got the Americans tied up. This is the way it sounded last night on ESPN.
And back on it, Taves. Now a wraparound by Matthews, and they score! Brady Tkachuk knocked it home! Got Matthews with the Tkachuk brothers, not Eichel. Matthews wins this puck from McCarr behind the net, and he spins to the front of the net. This puck comes all the way to the front as Matthews is trying to wrap this. It goes right between Taves' feet. And Brady Tkachuk, as he always does, is around the crease, and he just jams this to the net.
That's the way it sounded when the Americans tied it 1-1. Then the Americans took the lead 2-1 when Jake Sanderson found the net.
To Larkin, and back to his good buddy Werenski, right on net. Rebound, Matthews trying to pass. They score! Jake Sanderson!
That was Sean McDonough last night on ESPN. Really cool that Sean McDonough grew up there in Boston.
Oh, yeah.
And was able to call that game last night.
He did a great job.
That was fantastic. But unfortunately, that was all the highlights for the American team because it went to overtime, and Connor McDavid at the 8:18 mark of overtime gave Canada the 3-2 win.
I thought for the Americans, the stick play, it was pretty good. Thought that at at times when you saw them glove down a lot of pucks that they were going to have opportunities. But you knew in overtime, Pat, when they had 4 really good looks at it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
And all of a sudden, the Canadian goalie, who's it, Bennington?
Yeah, Bennington.
Jordan Bennington.
He was a brick wall.
Dude, he
last night.
got in a zone
Mm-hmm.
in overtime, and he was not going to let that puck go past him.
Bennington, a little. I was not a big St. Louis Blues hockey fan when I lived in Missouri, and then back in 2019, Bennington was the goalkeeper for the St. Louis Blues when they beat the Boston Bruins for the Stanley Cup championship. The only time that the Blues have won a Stanley Cup, but he stopped 31 shots, including 20 in a row.
Yeah,
I mean, he got in the zone there, so I'm sure that they have the 40 million people in the country of Canada probably took the day off, right? Probably national holiday. I saw where their
do they work on Fridays up there anyways?
Where their prime minister took a shot about this is, you can't take our country and you can't take our game.
Sport,
Yeah. Well, we have your Lord Stanley's Cup.
It's been a while.
And we have since 1993.
Yeah, it's been a minute since I wouldn't really say that's their sport, but okay.
Yeah, sure, whatever.
So last night there was more cash on the Canada and the USA money line than the spreads, money line, and totals of all 5 of last night's NBA games.
Well, $6 of that was mine.
So everything last night from a Vegas standpoint was going to the hockey game.
Molly, can you figure out why I decided on the number 6? Because 51 and 5 plus 1.
Oh, that's good job.
Yeah. I stood to win $5.54 and didn't happen. Was not to be.
No.
But you know what? Life goes on.
Yeah.
I'll buy you lunch today.
Oh, thanks.
Oh, that's nice.
Thanks. I need it.
Canada gets the 4 nations, like you said. We still got the cup. Canada has 0 SEC championships, 0 Super Bowls.
Good point.
Yeah, I think we're still winning.
When's the last time they won a World Series?
Yeah.
Been a minute.
I don't think their healthcare system's all that great.
It is free though.
Well,
I mean,
keep that to yourself, Pat. We're not stating facts here.
Sorry, going against the directive before the show.
No, but that was awesome, and credit. I guess it was the NHL that said, "Hey, this is probably a good idea to come up with this tournament." But you probably had a lot of folks like me that generally didn't watch hockey, and the reason that they did. And if it was devised, I know it was pre-planned with a fight that we had this weekend, but this could help spark some ratings. It worked, and it was genius. And I'm sure a lot of the eyeballs that were tuned in last night will be tuned in beginning on Saturday, and then when it gets to playoff time especially.
Well, it was a perfect storm because of the situation going on with the tariffs between the United States and Canada. So that is a hot topic. And then, of course, when President Trump said what he did about them becoming the 51st state, things of that nature. Because let's be honest, if this had been Canada and Finland or the United States and Sweden, you would not have the storylines. You would not have that many people paying attention to it. So there was a little bit extra last night. So it was a perfect storm. We'll see what the television ratings, and based on the fact that there was nothing else going on from a standpoint of what worth viewing in sports, and that was, again, a perfect situation.
Well, and for somebody who doesn't watch a lot of hockey, I appreciated, I know the body checks and crashing into the boards and all that stuff, but the errant pucks that just go off guys' faces and some of the shots that they take. Because me and my wife, we were watching it, and she said, "Do you think that hockey is considered a tougher sport than football?" And I said, "Well, I started thinking about it. I said, well, maybe not. They've got to be close. They've got to be really, really close. But with football, maybe you've got more resistance because you're not on ice and you don't get as many high impact shots. You get a lot of them, but we looked it up. And of course, MMA and boxing, they're going to be at the top, followed by rugby. American football does come in right before hockey. And I forgot who put the list together as far as the toughest sports or most physical toughest sports.
So I guess that will be our hockey segment for the year.
Yeah, that's it.
Yep. We
Hope you enjoyed it.
2 or 3 days on that. So, and our 3-man front Twitter.
We still have our freedom, folks.
had to do with last night's game based on the viewing habits or how much people watched, right?
Yeah, so we asked basically how much of last night's Four Nations Championship did you watch? Some, not much, 2 periods worth, drop of puck to the finish, or none. I'm a little disappointed. 45% saying none.
Dang, man.
23% saying drop of the puck to finish, 18% saying about 2 periods, and 14 saying some, not much. I watched the entire thing. I'm with you, Landrum.
I knew that we were all watching. I'm disappointed.
I was wearing my Red Wings jersey.
Pat, I know you watched the whole thing.
I did. Watched the whole thing.
It was great.
I was even texting with Pat prior to them dropping.
I could already
the
tell
first
you were
puck.
locked in because you were telling me how big the beers were.
Yeah,
at
going back
TD
to our
Garden.
Price is Right segment, I said that beer is huge.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really good deal on beer.
Very economical, was it not?
It was.
Did you see anybody eating
And it was
those,
at least 24 ounces, Pat.
those fancy steak sandwiches I was telling you about?
No, I kept looking in the stands. But did you see the guy that was standing next to his buddy? His buddy was dressed up like the bald eagle, and then he had
The founding fathers?
he had shaved his head to
Well,
look like
see?
Ben Franklin.
I wanted to join them because yesterday I said I want to dress up as a Statue of Liberty.
Yep.
So I could have been
You
there.
should have
You
shaved
could-
your head
with
and
them.
been Ben Franklin.
No, I'm not going to shave my head.
Yeah. I was just imagining Molly with a shaved head. No, don't do that.
No, I'm
Oh,
okay.
Statue of Liberty look. She could pull that off.
So the U.S. loses. We march on.
Yeah.
Have our troops amassed at the border yet? To the north?
I don't know.
Just go ahead and take it.
I'm keeping
down
my
with
eyes
it?
open.
All right, a little bit of football news going on, man. A little back and forth going on between the University of Tennessee and Nebraska. This is interesting. So Pete Thamel, 13 minutes ago, he reported that that Tennessee and Nebraska are canceling their upcoming football series, which was scheduled for 2026 in Lincoln and 2027 in Knoxville. And Danny White, who is never short of being a smart aleck, the athletic director at Tennessee, he has immediately gone on Twitter and said, correction. Tennessee is not canceling this series. Nebraska did. We are very disappointed that they didn't want to play these games. What's going on, Molly? Why are you now? You're not playing spring games. Now you're backing out of games against Southeastern Conference schools. What is Matt Rule's problem?
I don't know. I'm a little disappointed though, because I mean, most of my friends went to Tennessee, and they've had the schedule since I was a freshman or sophomore, I think, in college. And like we talk about it every year, like, oh, we can't wait for when Nebraska and Tennessee play.
What's going to be perfect is we're not calling an alliance, but when the SEC and the Big Ten form that union, that partnership
That
with
first game is going
scheduling,
to be Tennessee and
they
Nebraska.
will make sure that Tennessee and Nebraska play
They're
that
going to
game.
make Nebraska pay for this.
Yes, they are.
But Tennessee folks are having a field day ripping Nebraska. It's pretty funny on social media.
You ought to rip Matt Rule.
No,
It wasn't rap. It wasn't Rule. Who's the AD there? Trev's replacement.
Dannon.
Yeah, that's right.
Not Trev. No.
Very disappointed in your alma mater. That's weak. That's weak leadership.
Well, they just
Canceling
didn't want
that
a
game.
repeat of the, what was it, like 98 Orange Bowl? So.
Man. So who is Nebraska playing then? You're not playing each other in a spring game. Now you're not playing Tennessee. Like who are you playing?
We
like
play-
Northern Iowa?
Creighton's club team.
Yeah.
They
Omaha.
don't
Does
have
Omaha have
football.
a football team?
No, they
They
don't.
have a club team.
Probably.
You keep this up, you'll be going to bowls every year.
Yeah.
Yay. I'll take a bowl game
I know you will.
But you didn't even go to the last one.
because I couldn't afford it.
Well, you should be putting
you
money
should-
away right now.
Well, you should pay for me next time.
That's
if
not
you
my
want me to go.
responsibility to pay for you. I got two kids I'm still trying to pay for.
The GoFundMe you can go to now to send Molly to her next bowl game, whenever that may be, for Nebraska.
That's what happens when you play in the Pinstripe Bowl between Christmas and
I
New
just
Year's.
love Danny White. I mean, he is never short. You remember when the whole stuff happened with Green down at Auburn?
Yeah.
You remember that?
He speaks out of turn sometimes, but this was actually directly related to
I just
the
thought it was
school that he
funny.
works for, that he represents.
Yeah. He had no business saying what he did about Green.
No.
I mean, that was totally out of hand. But it was just funny because Pete Thamel reports it, and then Danny White immediately, correction,
We didn't cancel it.
we didn't cancel it. Just like when Wake Forest canceled Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin.
Let everybody know.
Could you imagine if that had been Lane Kiffin, what he would have done on social media against Nebraska?
Yeah. We're not going to put that on Matt Rule. We'll put it on Dannon. That's a strike against Dannon, though. Trev would have played that game.
I don't know if he would have.
Maybe. Well, that's disappointing. What other cancellations are we going to get? Another spring game today?
Well, I mean, yesterday
Why even play it?
We had USC announce they're canceling their spring game. Texas announced they canceled their spring game. Nebraska started the whole mess by canceling their spring game.
Yeah, you're welcome, guys.
According to USC, the biggest purpose that a spring game actually serves now is a fan engagement tool, and we just think that we can engage with fans better than having a football game.
Win more games.
So Nebraska cited poaching for the reason for their cancellation. Texas says that, they've played 30 games in the last 2 years.
Now, the fan engagement is what USC is using.
Yes.
People are running out of excuses.
Well, then Florida State canceled its spring game because of the ongoing stadium renovations at Doak Campbell. Not that anybody would want to show up and watch Florida State play a spring game anyway.
Gus didn't want to let that offense out.
That's true. It probably was Gus.
He probably was. He's so paranoid.
Yeah. So
doesn't want Bama to get that early scout.
So yeah, I mean it's just I don't know what we're gonna do this spring. I guess we'll just go.
How about the UFL? Giddy up.
There we go.
Well, we'll have Stallions.
Major League Baseball.
Yeah. You get to travel to Mississippi for a spring game.
Yeah, I'll be there for the dunk contest.
Yeah.
Tug of war.
Maybe I will
Flag football.
Maybe I will be watching more hockey.
It's just the start for you. All right, it's the Friday edition of Three Man Front. We have got a jam-packed show today. Wimp Sanderson at the bottom of the hour, Barrett Slee at 11 o'clock. We'll talk about the Atlanta Braves. Spring training has started for them. Jerry Palm from CBS Sports will join us at 11:30. The CBS bracketologist will ask him if Alabama is in jeopardy of falling off that one line. Blake Lovell from Southeastern 16 at noon, and at 12:30, Nick Kelly, who covers the Alabama Crimson Tide, he will join us at 12:30 to kind of preview the Kentucky game coming up tomorrow at Coleman Coliseum, in which the first 10,000 fans, you get a free T-shirt. It's a whiteout against Kentucky.
What do you think the T-shirt says? Have they said it?
I've seen a picture of it. It's just, I mean, it's not like anything towards Kentucky. It's just, about Alabama basketball.
That'd be cool if it was.
I think this has been set for a long time, so, shirts were probably ordered a long time ago.
Nate's Nasties.
Better win.
Yeah. You imagine Monday if they don't.
Woo. Be 3 in a row.
The sky was falling before.
Yeah, that's tough. All right, it's Three Man Front. We've got a little time. We'll love to hear from you. 1-800-239-WJOX. Courtesy GMC text line 205-834-9450 on this very busy Friday. Jocks 94.5. It's 10:22. Jocks 94.5. Coach Wim Sanderson will join us at the bottom of the hour. We were just talking about this cancellation between Nebraska and Tennessee. Nebraska apparently called Tennessee on a very short week and said, "Hey, we're not playing anymore," and they're going to write a check for $500,000 to Tennessee for not playing in the game. So now Tennessee
can go and get him a defensive lineman.
You're welcome.
So they were supposed to play in September of 2026 in Lincoln. And supposedly because they're doing some refurbishment inside the stadium.
Well, and two, so this is from Sean Callahan. Nebraska wanted an 8th home game in 27. So instead of going on the road to Knoxville, they added Bowling Green, Miami of Ohio, and Northern Iowa.
There you go. There's your Northern
Iowa. So now
Iowa.
we have 8 home games in 27, which I'm fine with.
And those 3 that you just mentioned, sorry, but they're garbage.
That's okay. They're wins. Hopefully.
At least she's honest. At least she's honest. At least she's on. Northern Iowa can be tricky.
We beat them last year.
I know, but we're talking about an FCS team that can sneak up and they can ruin your Saturday.
Nah, Tennessee just doesn't want to play another Big Ten team after what happened in Columbus.
That was going to be such a great helmet game. Not anymore. You get Northern Iowa, the Panthers. Who was the other teams? You said Bowling Green?
And Miami, Ohio.
Ugh. You get Chuck Martin.
Oh,
all
boy.
of his joyfulness.
Stinks. Not to mention the fact that all these schedules anyway, especially any kind of Big Ten or SEC team, is probably going to be voided anyway with a new schedule.
Yeah.
Based on what I'm hearing with the SEC.
Does that mean that Tennessee would have to refund the $500,000 that they're getting for the initial contract?
I'm sure
something tells me
Tennessee-
Danny White's like, no, that money's already spent.
I'm sure Tennessee's already bought him another player. So, also some SEC news coming out of Gainesville, Florida. The Florida Gators are expected to promote Russ Callaway as offensive coordinator. That name should be very familiar with our audience. Why? It's because he is the son of former Alabama offensive line coach and UAB head coach Neil Callaway. And also Callaway was the offensive coordinator at Sanford for a number of years.
Callaway was also an offensive line coach for Pat Dye.
He was. Cannot tell you how many times that we had to bleep Coach Dye on the Feinbaum show when Paul would rip into Neil Callaway as being one of the worst offensive line coaches in the history of football. And Coach Dye did not take kindly to that. Oh, yeah. I got some great clips of
Coach Dye protected his own.
Oh, my goodness.
He protected.
Just slamming Paul and defending old Callaway. But anyway, his boy, 37 years old, he was the Florida tight ends coach last year. So he is going to be elevated to offensive coordinator. What's so interesting is he's the offensive coordinator, but Billy Napier will continue to call plays.
Hey, as long as that check comes and I'm getting paid like an offensive coordinator, you call all the plays you want and you take all that blame.
So last year when Billy Napier called the plays, they were 12th in the SEC in total offense, and they were 11th in the SEC in scoring. So,
well,
but Billy's not going to
now that we have
go quietly.
Now that we have 16 teams, Pat, that's not as bad as it used to be.
No, back when I first started covering the conference, we had just gone to 12.
Yeah.
So yeah. So there's 5 teams that's worse than Florida when it comes to offense.
Yeah.
So, we've already mentioned the fact that the Yankees are now going to allow facial hair, which I know Conrad's excited about that. But get ready, because I know that most of your viewing of the Braves happen on the regional sports networks. Same with me, with my Cardinals. But it's going to be an even era this year, because it was announced late yesterday afternoon that ESPN will not carry Major League Baseball after this season. None. Just very odd.
Makes me sad.
When you were the air quotes worldwide leader in sports and you're not carrying any baseball. Zero. They've been carrying baseball since 1990. And I guess the part that's also weird is because you're paying $1.4 billion for the NBA every single year. $1.4 billion for the NBA. Now, I understand that you're paying $2.7 billion for the NFL. I get that. No problems with that whatsoever. But how you're getting your investment back by spending that much money on the NBA, that's kind of crazy. They were only spending $550 million for Major League Baseball. So half of what you were spending on the NBA, but they have come to a separation and they have decided one of the issues that ESPN had with Major League Baseball is the new Apple and Roku package, because they sold that Friday night Apple package at a very low rate, and the Roku, which is a Sunday morning package, that I honestly, because the game starts at 10 a.m. 10 a.m. Birmingham time. It's always an East Coast game.
Yeah.
Which would be 11 on the East. And so ESPN not very happy by them going and selling those packages at a lower rate than what obviously they were paying for their 30 games, the Sunday night games. Plus they got the home run derby and the all-star festivities and stuff like that. So all of that will go away. So ESPN will no longer have that right, and they've been doing it since 1990.
Is there another streaming service or a current streaming service that you think that increases their inventory, or is it another network?
I would think, this is just me, I think based on the TNT and the TBS, because they already air some games, I think that they could up that package potentially and be a major player there. Maybe Amazon Prime. I don't see Netflix being involved in that, but who knows? Maybe Apple will want to take a little bit more since they're already carrying on Friday night. But it's just weird because Sunday night baseball and the home run derby, it's something that you and I, pretty much grew up on, watching as a baseball fan.
Dun, 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 dun. I was going to finish it. I don't think I could finish that last note. Yeah, it was a mainstay in baseball tonight and all of that. I guess they'll still have baseball tonight as far as their in-studio coverage.
I doubt it. I think they are absolutely just doing away with it.
Just doing away with it.
They'll have your ESPN Sports Center highlights.
NFL, NBA, and TGL.
Pretty much.
Now, I don't have a problem with the Tiger Golf League. But $1.4 billion, I'm with you. I'm not saying that you shouldn't, but that is a really hefty price based on the last ratings and the popularity of the NBA in comparison to other sports here in the United States. The NBA is 4th or 5th.
Yeah. And it's also interesting because up until 2021, there was a gap there where ESPN did not have all 4 major leagues in regards to their broadcast rights. And then the NHL came back to ESPN. They left ESPN for a number of years and then they came back. So for the last 4 years in their portfolio, ESPN had every major sport in the United States that they broadcast. So now baseball will go bye-bye.
That stinks.
Yeah, very interesting.
Let's cancel something else.
Yeah.
Spring games, regular season games. Thanks, Molly.
You're welcome.
Now, Major League Baseball going away from ESPN. We even call it the worldwide leader anymore.
I don't think so.
Just the part of the world leader.
Wimp Sanderson, he's always a leader of great minds when it comes to basketball.
Yes.
He's going to join us next on 3-Man Front. 10:34, Jocks 94.5 on this Friday. Coach Wimp Sanderson is going to join us momentarily. A little bit of news. Man, it's a lot of college football news and notes happening as we speak. The Big Ten has just announced that they're moving their media days to Las Vegas, Nevada.
There you go. There you go.
Ooh, that's a good move for the Big Ten.
No, that's smart.
I like that.
The 3-day event will be held at the Mandalay Bay Resort and Casino in Las Vegas on July 22nd through the 24th.
Bielema's going to be in heaven.
Oh, man, it's going to be fantastic.
Oh, he's going to love it. You know, that's where he met his wife.
He did.
Wasn't he playing craps?
Just like Tommy Tuberville met his wife at Pat O'Brien's in New Orleans.
She saw him from across the casino floor. She walked over.
Did you know that about Tommy and his wife?
No.
Pat O'Brien's. Yep, sure did. It was after the Alabama-Miami National Championship game.
His wife walked up to him at the time. He was sitting at the craps table. She said, wow.
You are going to be a top 15 program in 2025.
There are a lot of men in here, but none as svelte and as handsome as you.
Hey, I mean, Brett looked a lot different back in those days than he looks now.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to Coach Wimp Sanderson. Brought to you each and every week by Craneworks.
Lift it, load it, grade it, grind it, move it, haul it, rig it, dig it, Craneworks, Rentalworks, yeah! The big dog's got it.
Wimp Sanderson on Three Man Front is brought to you by Craneworks. Lift it, buy it, rent it. The big dog's got it. And now, Wimp Sanderson.
Coach Wimp Sanderson joins us on the Buyers Right Hotline. Good morning, Coach. Happy Friday. Hope you're doing well. How much hockey did you watch last night?
She said, not only you can't coach, you can't roll the dice. That's what she said to Tommy. She said, Tommy, you can't coach either.
Oh.
And so he said, well, will you marry me? She said, I might. How much money you got?
Depends if he was a winner that night.
Yeah, and if you two are going to Vegas, which you're probably not, but if you are, don't go and stay long, because you won't stay in the same room together, because you don't have any money left.
You know, that's great advice, Coach, because I think you're right.
And at the end of the show, it won't be a funny story, but I'll tell you a story about how I kept from beating Missouri.
Okay.
I mean, how I kept from losing to Missouri.
Was that against Norm Stewart?
At the end of the show.
Was that against Norm?
Norm, with my best buddy, Stewart. He is a buddy of mine. He's had a really tough time. He's come down with cancer. His wife had cancer. He's a great guy and a funny guy. And I bust him all the time. Every time I see him, I bust him about it. He pushes me off. So I'll tell you that at the end of the story.
Was Sunvold playing on that team with Stepanovich? Or was
I don't
after?
remember.
Or was that after?
I don't remember who was on their team. When you hear the story, you won't.
Coach,
you'll know why I didn't know. Yeah.
You know what I just realized? Norm Stewart and also Gene Cady, former Purdue coach. You were friends with him, who was such a nice man when I got to talk to him when he would come on our show back in the day.
Yeah.
But I just realized you were friends with those guys, and all of those guys had a very similar scowl to you on the sideline.
Well, they copied it from me. Yeah. I was nicer than I looked. I just didn't want to. I needed something for people to come back to the games to see, because they didn't want me as the coach. So I needed something for them to come back besides the team. They needed me to do something, so I tried to do something.
All right, Coach. Any concerns about what's going on with Alabama right now after that tough
loss?
No, I
don't think
Missouri?
so. I think they're okay. Kentucky comes in. Kentucky doesn't guard the dribbler very well. They don't shoot it at times very well. They have a very positive attitude. They're fun to watch. They're bringing in the big crowd, of course, because they are Kentucky. Alabama had certainly a tough night. They didn't play the way they like to play. They started off with a lot of turnovers, which really cost them a great deal. They just they couldn't get things going inside. The inside game is not great. And the Mitchell kid who transferred there from Duke got 31. Are you serious? And so these transfer portals deals sometimes really pay off for you, and they pay off for a team. Get this, it was Zip and 18 last year, and they're doing great this year, beating the NCAA tournament. Last year, South Carolina was in the NCAA tournament. This year, they haven't won a game. So this thing goes backwards and forward. Auburn gets a good player from Georgia Tech, Kelly kid, who makes the last shot against Tennessee to win that game. Alabama gets a kid from Auburn who's averaging 11 points a game and a good player. So you got to be sure that when and Arkansas gets a new team, they don't fit. He's 88 now at the gate to Southern Cal, and then comes Cal to Arkansas to try to do well, and had a pretty tough year. Interesting to me about how many teams are going to get in. I struggle with 7-11 getting in. Y'all probably don't, but 7 wins and 11 losses in the conference. I don't know. It didn't happen that way. I don't think when I was coaching. It just bugs me a little bit, but. Good games this week. Auburn plays Georgia, who they just barely got by, and that's easy to do. Auburn's got a terrific team, and Bruce done a terrific job with their team. They're very good to go into Alabama and win the way they did. So Alabama, as you already mentioned, needs to pick up one in order to get. One of the problems that you have in coaching, not on the radio, is that when you play a game, a championship game like the Alabama-Auburn game, the next game you're really worried about getting your team ready to play. And Auburn has 3 home games after the Alabama-Auburn win. Alabama did not. They had to go to Missouri, and that made it much more difficult. So I've talked enough. What do y'all want to ask? Oh, by the way, there's 7 teams in the SEC with losing records.
Wow.
I don't know.
Well, so let me ask you this.
We're talking about 13, 14 going to NCAA, huh?
Yeah, Oklahoma, give me a break.
That's what I'm talking about, too.
Do you think Porter's okay? Because a lot of people in Oklahoma, they're starting to rattle off a little bit about his future. What do you think about that? I know you're close to Porter.
He's okay. Yeah, I am. Porter worked for me. Yeah, he's fine. He's a good basketball coach. Did a great job. Got to the Final Four when he was in a game and a team in Chicago. Was good, and so he's okay. They are disgusted with the close losses and all that kind of. They get mad at you for a while, then you can bring it back a little bit. Transfer portal's so cotton picking big, and you can think you got the right people and you got the wrong people, and it's and the SEC's done a good job. And nobody's going to agree, but the basketball was just as good. The players were just as good when I coached. We had to play everybody home and home. I said that before. That makes it tougher. There wasn't 3 teams that we played twice or 5 teams that we played twice. And going to Kentucky and going to Auburn and going everywhere was difficult for us. And we only had a 10-team league, but by Georgia we had 18 games and we played everybody twice. So that's a little bit of difference.
Coach, with the strength of the SEC and how down the ACC is, you mentioned Miles Kelly, you mentioned the Mitchell kid from Missouri. Is that a byproduct of the SEC, the NIL that they've been able to put together to attract those types of players, and you're seeing that start to hurt some of these programs in the ACC?
I think that's a good question. The Mitchell guy comes in here and he eats everybody's lunch in the Alabama game. He's from Duke, and then as I said, the other kid at Auburn is from Georgia Tech, and they are, they're guys that can come in. They're looking for one thing: how much money am I going to get, but how much playing time am I going to get? Because my agent tells me I'm going to be a pro. So if I'm going to be a pro, I'm going to make some money. So I got to play in order to be a pro. So how much money am I going to get? If it's about the same, but I think I've got a better chance of starting, which Kelly is doing, then I need to move on over to Auburn. Holloway, I don't have any idea. He probably wasn't getting the shots he wanted, but Bruce Pearl can really coach, and so can Nate Oates. Both those guys are, very, very good and know what they're doing. And basketball is a game that takes on its own personality every night. You think, why did this happen, or why did that happen? Defending the 3 is critical. Not giving up cheap baskets, fast break baskets is critical. Alabama is hard to guard on a half-court basis. They just do. They just are hard to guard on a half-court basis. Missouri came in and shot the 3s open on the fast break, and they shot the 3 and made a bunch of them and got up to a 12-0 lead. But Alabama changes the lineup a little bit, trying to figure out their matchups. He's a very, very good basketball coach. done a great job there, and so has Bruce. So should be interested. Samford's certainly done a great job with their team. There's no doubt about it. Bucky's terrific. So he used to come to all of my games, and I appreciate it. So,
Coach, let me ask you this about the last two losses for Alabama. I guess the most concerning thing is just a slow start. I mean, the opposition comes out. Auburn jumps out to a 9-0 lead. Mizzou gets out to a 12-0 lead. As a coach, I mean, is there anything that you see, again, not being critical of Nate or his team or you coaching his team, but had you gone through a spell like that when you coached Alabama where 2 or 3 games in a row where your guys just for whatever reason did not come out very strong and the opposition was hot as fire and then you had to struggle the rest of the game to try to keep up and try to overtake the opposition after that big start?
Well, certainly I did. Yeah, I had some times where we came out. The one thing you don't want to do, but you can go too far. Dean Smith, this is a good question. Dean Smith, I don't know if it'd go this as long as it went against Missouri, would not call timeout if he went through a bad lull. He said it showed weakness. Of course, he's one of the great coaches of all time. That doesn't mean that Nate Oates shouldn't have called timeout because it was 12-0 and they were running away with it. But it was interesting to me because I used to listen to what Dean would have to say. We played against him 2 or 3 times, and he would not call timeout in the middle of the game necessarily. If he goes through a cold streak and you go through a hot streak in the middle of the game, he just leave it alone. I mean, you could score 12, 15 straight points. He wouldn't do anything as far as the starting of the game. I'm not sure, but there are a lot of great coaches, no doubt about it. I've already told y'all about who I got kicked out of the game with. Y'all couldn't pick it. Y'all didn't know Bobby Knight, so when I got kicked out of my game.
He was a lot of fun to watch just for entertainment
well,
value.
you guys couldn't pick that game. Y'all kept looking. I could tell y'all looking at each other. I wonder who you got kicked out of. I know what you ain't fooling me.
Coach,
I'm going to. You will talk some more. We'll talk. I love talking.
Oh well, we love talking to you. We're short on time. I wanted to hear that story that you promised us.
All right, now, Norm is a big buddy of mine.
Mm-hmm.
I get a call from Kansas City. They're saying, "Wimp, would you come out here and play your team in a 2-man in a 14 tournament? We'll give you some big money back then. Navy is going to be one of the players. There's another team, and then there's Norm's team, and then mine." I said, "Yeah." But here's the deal. In the contract, you have to put in there, if I play Norm's team, we do not have back then Big 8 officials. They said, you'll come if I said, yeah, I'll come. But you got to put in the contract. Guess what? They didn't tell Norm.
Oh, boy.
So anyway, here we go. We win. Norm wins, and here we go. And out comes the officials for the game, and they dressed in Big Ten officials, not Big 8. And I can tell Norm is going, ooh. And so we're playing, and we're doing pretty good at the halftime. Norm does not go to his dressing room. He goes and finds the guy that's head of the insurance company and chews his little double ass out, and chews him out. He don't chew the team out. He chews the guy that's running the insurance company out for letting me pull that little trick. And so I was so proud of myself. So Norm and I go off on a Reebok trip. We're out in the middle of the ocean, and I said, "Norm, I don't know how to thank you for what you do." He said, "What?" I said, "For letting me come over there and bring my own cotton picking officials and beat your butt." But hey, Wimp, that's not funny. That ain't funny at all. I said, "Well, that's pretty funny to me." I said, "Crap, fine." I said, "Well, it's pretty cotton picking funny to me because we beat your butt, so we beat you because we had the right official." Anyway, that's not a funny story, but that actually happened, and when he got through, he said, "It's the first time in the history of I let somebody else bring their own cotton picking official." So
that's amazing.
Norm's had a rough time, but it was a great story. Anyway, Crane Works brings me to y'all. I know y'all in a hurry. Crane Equipment Rental is great. 30 years they've been doing this. 2.5 tons to 5 tons. They'll do all they possibly can, whether it be in Mobile or Huntsville or Nashville or Birmingham, wherever it might be. Craneworks.com. David Upton does a terrific job, and they've got the Waste Works as well with Rental Works and Crane Works. Appreciate you guys having me on. Didn't tell you much, but that's all I know.
It was great,
Talk to you next
Coach.
week.
Have a great weekend.
Thank
We'll
you,
talk to you
Coach.
next
All
week.
right.
That is Coach
All
Wimp
right,
Sanderson
thanks.
joining
Bye.
us on the Buyers Right hotline for all your insurance, financial, and HR needs. It's Buyers Right Insurance, a Higginbotham partner.
Coming up at the top of the hour, Barrett Salee. We will check in Brave spring training. We'll talk college football and other things with Barrett. It's the Friday edition of Three Man Front. So glad you're with us here on Jocks 94.5.
Always appreciate Coach Wim Sanderson joining us. Brought to you by our friends at Crane Works. Coming up at the top of the hour, Barrett Salee will join us, pre- and post-game show host of the Atlanta Braves radio network, as they get ready for a little action this weekend as spring training officially gets started.
Well, there's still some cold weather hanging around, so schedule your system checkup now from a Train comfort specialist. Train has been recognized for 10 consecutive years as America's most trusted HVAC brand and our exclusive home comfort partners here at Jock. So go and visit train.com to find a comfort specialist near you.
So joining us at 11:30 today, the CBS Sports main bracketology expert, Jerry Palm. I've known Jerry for over 30 years. He started doing this way before. I mean, literally, him and Joe Lenardi were like the pilgrims when it came to bracketology. Seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, they were the first ones to do it. Jerry was an RPI expert for a number of years. He's going to join us at 11:30. He just updated his bracket a couple of moments ago. Auburn is the overall number 1 seed. Bama is still slated on the 1 line. Also interesting, Landrum, because Joe Lunardi has just updated his bracketology, and Alabama is still the number 2 overall seed, according to Joe Lunardi. And I'll be honest, that surprises me, but we were doing some numbers crunching during the commercial break, and it's not that surprising based on what Alabama's strength of schedule and their overall scheduling has done for them.
Yeah, so as far as non-conference strength of schedule, Alabama is 12th in the country. Auburn is 8th. Meanwhile, Florida, one of your other presumed number 1 seeds, their non-conference strength of schedule is 242nd.
Woo. Yikes.
In the country. Now, naturally, with your strength of schedule, your overall strength of schedule, the SEC is going to have just the strength of the conference. It's going to factor in big. Auburn is number 1. Alabama is number 2 as far as strength of schedule. And then it helps out Florida, and they jump to 43 there in Duke. And Duke can't help it. They're playing in the ACC, but Duke is at 62. But, yeah, those would be your 4 seeds, according to Jerry right now.
And Joe Lunardi, based on the
Number 1
fact that
seeds.
the SEC is a 500 league right now in league play,
Yes.
it's hurting them.
Well, hopefully after this weekend.
Yes, maybe. Cross our fingers. But the SEC right now, 12 teams, according to Joe Lunardi, and that's down.
Yeah.
A week ago, he had 14 listed, and now it's down to 12.
So Oklahoma's out. I'm not looking at it. Oklahoma's out, and is it Vanderbilt?
Last 4 out. Oklahoma and Georgia both are out.
Georgia. I forget about Georgia.
Yeah, those 2 are out. Last 4 in. Vandy and Arkansas.
Arkansas is still hanging in there.
Arkansas is still hanging in there by a thread.
What win do you think is really helping Arkansas? Just going to Rupp and winning, or
It has to.
Does it have to do with how much we know that they paid and the talent on that team? That Wimp, and I think Wimp said it perfectly. He said they just don't fit.
Mm-hmm.
Got a bunch of good dudes, but they don't fit together.
So you got Auburn, number 1 seed. Bama's a number 1 seed. Auburn's the overall number 1. Bama is number 2. On the 2 line, you've got Tennessee. On the 3, you've got Kentucky, Texas A&M. Matter of fact, he's got Texas A&M ranked higher than Kentucky. And then on the 4 line, you have no SEC teams. Matter of fact, on the 4 line you've got 3 Big Ten teams and 1 Big East team. Michigan State, Michigan, Purdue, and then you got St. John's.
How about this? You got 2 teams on the 5 line from the SEC, Mississippi State and Ole Miss. Very interesting. Vandy and Nebraska on the 10 line.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Lenardi's got the last 4 byes being Texas, West Virginia, San Diego State, and Nebraska.
12 teams. It would still break the record set by the Big East back in 2011.
If we can just get over 500 as a league.
Maybe this weekend, Pat. 11 o'clock here on this Friday on Three Man Front. Wimp Sanderson, courtesy of Craneworks in the first hour. We're going to talk to our friend Barrett Slee coming up in just a moment. Mandu in downtown Homewood. Mandu is your answer. If you don't have long hours to be spending in a gym, you want quick results, you're going to get it from Mandu. Mandu is electrical muscle stimulation fitness. Basically, to sum it all up, you're going to go into Mandu. Your first visit is free, by the way, and they'll put you through a workout. But you're going to put on something that looks kind of like a wetsuit. It has cables that run to a machine that sends electric pulses to various parts of your body. If you're trying to build up muscle in your arms, your shoulders, your chest, maybe you want some more defined calves, you can do that. Or just overall feel better. All fitness levels, all ages, Mandu is for you. And that 15-minute workout, it's a 15-minute workout. That's all it is. No strings attached, no fine print. It's the equivalent to 6 to 8 hours in a gym, and you're going to get results. I guarantee it because I got results. Mandu in downtown Homewood, MANDUU.com. Make sure you tell Paul and his friendly staff that Landrum from Jocks 94.5 sent you.
Joining us now on the Buyers Right hotline is we got spring training well underway. We've got games coming up this weekend. You can hear Barrett Slee on the pre and the post game show of the Atlanta Braves radio network right here on the Jocks family of stations in Birmingham. Barrett, I hope you're doing well. And man, spring baseball springs eternal this time of the year, especially for our teams.
Yeah, it's cold up here, but man, watching all those games, watching a video of a bat hitting a ball, I've never been more excited, man. That sound means summer's right around the corner. And, I hate the Dodgers. I'm not a big fan of the Cubs either, but watching them play yesterday in Glendale on the MLB Network was pretty cool because you actually got to see some stars. Mookie Betts played for like 3-4 innings. So, yeah, it's back, and we're excited.
All right, I'm going to cut to the chase. What are you hearing on Ronald Acuna?
He wants to be back like yesterday. I think that they're playing things real close to the vest. I think to me, look, 9.5 months, which is when he came back last time, is mid-March, right? So if you go by that timeline, he'll be ready for opening day. I think he can be, but they're not going to throw him out there until probably mid to late April because, you saw last time, with the ACL, he was unsure of himself. He was hesitant. He wasn't explosive. I think he wants to prevent that from happening. And so they're going to be a little bit more patient with him, but he could play right now. 100% he could play right now. He's that healthy, but I'm thinking more like mid to late April for Ronald.
Okay, so with him being out until mid-April, does that mean Profar is your leadoff hitter? Is that the general feeling?
That is so. Snitker hasn't come out and said that officially. He's leaving the door open for Harris, but Snit told us Monday that he feels like Michael Harris is actually a middle of the order guy. So yeah, his actual quote was, "Well, there might be somebody, a kid, because apparently Profar at 31 is a kid to Snitker, that's new to the team that might bat leadoff." So I think right now it's looking like Profar is going to be that guy. It still could be Harris, but Smith definitely views Harris as more of a middle of the order guy, but certainly he can lead off if he needs to.
All right, I'll ask you about another guy, Spencer Strider. What's the timetable? What are you hearing? What is your best guess? Because I know that you're not talking directly with his physician, but what is your best guess as far as Spencer Strider returning to Spencer Strider form?
I'm thinking last week of April. Now, I know that today, I don't know if he's done it yet, but today he was supposed to throw a side session on one of the backfields with batters, not swinging batters, but batters standing in the batter's box. So, that to me means that he's getting close. I've heard that when he unleashes his fastball, it's more like 95, 96 right now. That will change. But yeah, I think he's going to get at least one, maybe two starts in spring training. Then they're probably going to start him out in Gwinnett on a rehab assignment, get him a couple of games there, and then move forward. with him in the rotation. I would guess last week in April. Would I be surprised if it was sooner? Not really, because it's not a real, not a normal, I guess I should say, Tommy John surgery. It's a little bit different in the sense they had to clean up some chips, but they didn't necessarily take everything out. So, it's different. I think it's a little better for healing. So he could start right now. I think they know that. I think he knows that. But, as of now, today he's supposed to throw a side with real batters in the batter's box just to give him that view. And I fully expect him to make a start probably mid to late spring training, maybe 1 or 2 starts, and then start out in Gwinnett.
All right, so let me ask you about the rotation. It looks like, based on what I've read, so 4 and 5, that's kind of up in the air right now. And what is your best guess as of this moment? I know they haven't even played a game yet in spring training, but how do you think that that's going to shape up from the 4 and 5 of the rotation?
It'll be Grant Holmes and Ian Anderson in a perfect world. 4 and 5, 5 and 4, depending on who they are. They really, really love Ian Anderson in terms.
There we go.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah, we heard the birds chirping, and he was on the move. It sounded like a beautiful Friday there in the Atlanta area.
Did sound very peaceful, did it not?
It did. You know what I immediately started thinking was, golly, I can't wait for the Masters. Just hearing the birds.
But those are all piped in. Those aren't real.
That's right. Just like the sand. It's not real sand.
It's not real sand. I mean, it's, the production value is incredible.
Strider, that would be huge if they could get him back. Acuna, I guess that's good news. I'm going to ask him when he rejoins us, though, as far as roster talent, now with the Mets acquiring Soto and doing some of their off-season deals, where would the Braves rank in that? And Barrett Slee rejoining us. Barrett, it was so nice, the ambient noise with the birds chirping, and we could
and we're talking baseball.
Yeah,
we felt the sun beating down on our face.
You know what? I figured I'd give you guys a sense in my 30-degree suburban Atlanta, but it's a nice day outside, even though it's a little chilly. But you asked about the rotation, the
right.
4 and 5. I mean, it's going to be Grant Holmes and Ian Anderson right now. I think that they really are high on Ian Anderson getting back to his original form. Snit said the other day that he is fine with Grant Holmes as a reliever. And so that kind of versatility, I think, makes it more likely that when Strider comes back, it's Ian Anderson at the back end, or they go with the 6-man rotation, which I think is, something that they've, kept open in the past. But, both those guys have had success. Obviously, Ian Anderson in the World Series, and then, Grant Holmes last year was one of the biggest surprises, I think, in that rotation. So I think that in a perfect world, it's Holmes, Anderson, or vice versa, and that they would rather Ian Anderson be that number 5 when Strider comes back.
Barrett, with the Mets and the Phillies doing what they've done and the guys returning and then the acquisitions they've had in the offseason, where would you rank just overall roster talent from the National League East heading into the season?
I still think the Braves are at the top. I know there's been a lot of consternation in Braves country about, the lack of moves other than the Profar deal. I don't think Alex Anthopoulos is going to go out there and, just make moves for the sake of making moves. That's not how he operates. So I think from a roster construction standpoint, I still think it's the best roster in the National League, certainly, or aside from the Dodgers. But I still think it's as good as it gets outside of LA. And, you look when Ronald gets back, when you have Sean Murphy batting 8th. Now, I am not the biggest Sean Murphy fan, but if he gets back to where he was 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and bats 8th, that's okay. So I think from a roster standpoint, the Braves still in the East are up there. You look at that Mets lineup after the top half of that lineup, it doesn't really do an awful lot for me. I know they had Soto and they have, Lindor, and it all looks pretty at the top, but beyond that, it really doesn't to me. So I think they're just fine. There's a reason in Vegas that they're the second most likely to win the National League, because I don't think there's a lot of faith in the Mets beyond, what Soto brings and how top loaded that, or how you know, that it tails off the way that it does.
I do want a quick follow up. Sean Murphy, what is it that maybe concerns you about him? That's the best way to put it.
I don't trust him as a hitter.
Okay.
You put him in there. They put him in there last year, because he's supposed to be what he was 2 years ago, right? 25 home runs. Even the first half of his first year, right?
Yeah.
When he was an all-star, he's supposed to be that guy. They thought he would be that guy, and they sacrificed defense for it. I mean, Sean Murphy is not a good defensive catcher. Darno was way better. So if that's the case, if his offense isn't matching what they thought it would be, that trade just looks awful in retrospect now. They're going to put Drake Baldwin in. I have no doubt that by mid-May, if Murphy is not doing what they expected him to do when they traded for him, that you're gonna start seeing Drake Baldwin up there getting Travis Darno style starts, right? 2-3, 3-2, splitting with Murphy, because they'd rather Drake Baldwin be up next year because they don't want to start the clock on him. But they're pretty frustrated, I think, or I wouldn't say frustrated, concerned that, you know, maybe they know the trade was bad, that they came out on the wrong end, but I think there's legitimate concern that it's the experiment's gonna end if things don't turn around for Murphy real quick.
So I know a lot of people don't follow the Hot Stove League maybe as closely as we do, the three of us having this conversation. But it's also fun when you get to spring training because all of a sudden you start looking around not only your favorite team, but the other teams of where certain players have ended up in free agency or trades or whatever the case may be. But there's one player that, I think watching him with the Marlins and the Pirates last year, and I'm talking about Brian De La Cruz, who is now a member of the Braves. He hit 21 bombs last year. I think he hit around 230, 235, something like that. But I was always impressed with him. What kind of role is he going to have on this Braves team this year? Because he has got a very live bat.
Yeah, he does. I think he's going to, in a perfect world, he's not going to have to start, obviously. But he is going to be one of those guys off the bench. If you need a bomb, if you need a free swinger, he's your man, right? Like, he is your man. So would I be surprised if he got a pretty significant amount of starts, early on just to get him kind of comfortable? Maybe, especially with Kelnick. I mean, he can replace Kelnick in a second. But they still, and talked to some folks about this the other day, they still love Kelnick. And I'm just like, I don't know why. But, as an injury replacement, as the new Ramon Laureano, Ramon Laureano played last year, can he be that guy? 100%. And so, yeah, I mean, I like it. I think when he signed, I know, like, Braves country and Braves Twitter is like, oh, this is it. This is what we're going to do in the offseason. I'm like, dude, if he's your fourth outfielder and he's taking Eli White's spot, let's go. Absolutely.
I'm with you on Kelnick. I know that he was so high when he came out as a prospect and originally with the Mets organization, and he's in flashes. He's good, but then there are times where he will go in just dreadfully long slumps, and you just wonder if there's somebody else that could get more production. I'm with you. I kind of lean that there is, but if they're high on him,
yeah, they are, and he puts so much pressure on himself. That's the one thing. Like, he's a good dude, but you can see in the clubhouse when he's putting pressure on himself, I mean, it's like a completely different person. So I think that he's definitely got it in him. Like, he's got the talent. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But I mean, the lack of trust he has in himself, it's unbelievable. So look, he has flashes, right? There was a good, 2.5 weeks where he was the best leadoff hitter in the entire world, right? When Ronald went down. But yeah, they fell out of love with him late last year. They kind of reignited their love affair with him because they do feel like he trimmed up a little bit. He's a little more flexible. I think he did some yoga and stuff, so he's like a little bit different in terms of body, like the way he's put together now, and they think that's a better way to go about it because they don't want him to be a 30 home run guy. They kind of, that ship has sailed. but I don't know, man. If they rely on him for anything other than, spots here and there and maybe some fill-in work, obviously, like we'll see early, I can't see why he's a better option than Brian Dillard.
Well,
honestly,
Barrett, he expects perfection. He does have that Croatian heritage, and he's just like Nick Saban and Bill Belichick. He
exactly
expects
like
to be
them.
number one.
Yes,
Yep.
exactly.
He just wants to be a GOAT.
That's right. I mean, when I think of Kelnick, I absolutely think Bill Belichick and Nick Saban. I don't know why anybody wouldn't.
The Mountain Rushmore. Yeah.
Before we let you go, I wanted to get your take on all the goings on in college football, especially what happened in New Orleans this week. It looks like the SEC getting one step closer to a 9-game conference schedule, which then in turn could allow them to get in some type of alliance agreement. I hate to use that word, but I will. With the Big Ten from a scheduling standpoint. What are you hearing and what do you think will ultimately happen?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I'm hearing, is that it's pretty much that's exactly what it's going to happen. They're ruining the sport, man. It's the thing, and Josh Pate said it, and I agree with him too. The words you haven't heard through all this are fans and players. Like, they don't care. It's one thing to go after money, right? That's why they moved to four teams in the playoff. That's why I had first round of conference expansion, all that stuff. They knew they could get money, right? That was the goal. Now they know the money's there. It's like backwards. Now they know the money's there, and they're just trying to figure out how to make it work in order to get what they already know is there, right? It's like they're working backwards now. I mean, the regionalization of college football was a feature, not a bug, right? That the fact that everyone focused on the SEC and the Big Ten had its core group and the Pac-12 had its core group, that was a feature, not a bug. And they just consistently tried to make this the NFL. And this is just another step. And look, I get it. They're going to make more money doing this than they could possibly imagine. But they're abandoning a lot of people in the process. And to me, that's a shame. It shouldn't be like that.
That is Barrett Sallee. You can hear him this spring and summer and fall on the Braves radio network on our Jocks family.
All the way through
station.
November 1st.
There you go. That's
all the way through November 1st. I'm going to get my World Series ring.
Is that game 4 of the World Series? Will it be a clean sweep for the Braves?
Yeah, sweep.
Yeah. Okay.
Of course.
All right. Just making sure. Barrett, enjoy your weekend. One of the last very few weekends before you will kiss your wife and family goodbye for the baseball
Barrett,
season.
Go pet your dog. Your dog needs attention.
No kidding. What's going on?
I mean,
there?
I don't know. I'm sorry, y'all. She has just been awful.
No, we're dog people. We love dogs.
No,
we understand
have no
it.
problem with that.
No, it was great. I'm concerned about the dog.
I mean, just next time, let's get another animal, because you had the birds at the beginning of the interview. Your dog chimed in. You got any other pets around the house?
Right. What else would you like? You want a giraffe? You want me to kind of go to the zoo and see if I can kidnap something?
That would be a good hit for Barrett to do one Friday, is just be at the Atlanta Zoo.
Yeah. Yes. That would be really good.
Y'all can guess which part of the zoo I'm at based on the animal sound.
Oh, he's in the reptile section.
Ooh. I don't think reptiles would make a whole lot of sound, but
I don't think they make that much noise.
What exhibit is Barrett at today at the Atlanta Zoo?
Right.
That could be a whole segment. We'll get it sponsored.
Is
You can
it
get a ferret.
or is it zebra?
Yeah. A zebra can't be a dog. I hope you know that.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true.
Wise man once said that.
All right. Take care, Barrett. We'll talk to you soon.
Later, boys.
See ya. He joined us on the Buyers Right hotline for all your insurance, financial, and HR needs. It's Buyers Right Insurance, a Higginbotham partner.
Well, how about our friends at Dobbs Ford? If you're heading over to Atlanta this spring, this summer, hopefully into the fall, you can do it in a Dobbs Ford. Whether it's the F-150s, the Mustangs, the Broncos and Bronco Sports, Escapes, Explorers, great inventory they're going to have. Alabama's largest showroom selection. You go to DobbsFordBirmingham.com. Top dollar for your trade. They're going to beat any competitor's price. And on top of that, the cherry on top, the people you deal with are fantastic people. You're going to enjoy the experience. You don't have to buy anything. Just go and take my word for it. Try them out. Go and talk to one of the friendly sales people, or maybe Joey or Rachel Goshen, the managing partners there at Dobbs Ford. You're going to see what I mean. You're going to feel it when you walk onto the lot. Dobbs Ford, Parkway East in Birmingham, DobbsFordBirmingham.com. Go see and feel the difference at Dobbs Ford. Tell them Landrum from Jock 94.5 sent you.
Jerry Palm from CBS Sports will join us at the bottom of the hour. Will give us his very latest bracketology. That's all next on this Friday edition of Three Man Front. It's 11:24 on this Friday. Pat, Landrum, Molly, Conrad will be back with us on Monday. Big game at Coleman Coliseum tomorrow as Alabama tries to avoid a 3-game losing streak. Our friend Brian Edwards from Vegas Insider, he tweeted out not too long ago that FanDuel has Alabama as a 7.5-point favorite against Kentucky with a point total of 177.5 points. So we should get a little bit later this morning, probably an early indication of what that line will be between the wonderful Georgia Bulldogs and the Auburn Tigers. It's interesting to think that Georgia almost got Auburn earlier this season on January the 18th over there in Athens, but Janai Broome did not play in that game for Auburn. Auburn only shot 39% for the game, and they only hit 60% of their free throws against Georgia. It was an ugly game, but they got out of there with a win. Like I said, Janai Broome did not play in that game. But since that game, Georgia only has 2 wins in conference. That's right, only 2 wins in their last 8 conference games since losing to Auburn.
They've had the week off, so they've had a longer week to prepare. Auburn's game the other night, Pat, versus Arkansas, that was the equivalent of that game in Stegman
Yeah.
Coliseum.
Yep. Good example.
Easy. You had easy baskets that were missed. They weren't, I don't know. They just not even that resulted in turnovers, but just sloppy with the ball. So yeah, we'll keep our eyes open for that. But my guess would be Auburn is
12 more.
11. I was thinking 11 and a half, actually. Yeah. So 12, something like that. And with Kentucky and Alabama, something's got to give. Alabama, do they return to form? Kentucky is much different on the road. A lot of teams are. But I think Alabama handles their business. They get back on the winning side of things.
Nate Oates is 4-4 against Kentucky since he came to Tuscaloosa. The first meeting this year at Rupp Arena, remember Alabama won 102-97. The Tide has given up at least 80 points in 4 straight games and 7 of their last 9 games. So if you like the over, I would think that the 177.5 that's currently listed at FanDuel, that's probably a good play.
Yeah, that is by far the highest total that is available right now at FanDuel by 20 points.
And the other problem is this.
Yeah.
Alabama is now 10th in the SEC in Ken Palm defensive efficiency, okay? 10th in the SEC in that category. Kentucky is 14th. Woo. So Kentucky is worse, according to Ken Palm, defensively than Alabama.
Oh, yeah. Give me the over.
Yeah. So the Tide's 21-5 overall, 10-3 in the SEC.
They just want the ball back so they can score.
Yeah. Kentucky 18-8, 7-6 in conference. So if you like scoring and not a lot of defense, like watching an NBA game, go to Coleman Coliseum tomorrow. That's probably what you're going to get.
Somebody who likes scoring. Don joins us now. Hey, Don.
Hey, guys. How y'all doing?
Doing great. How are you?
What? Even though we lost last night, that was a great hockey game.
I don't bring it up. It's old news.
Where did you watch it last night, Don?
Actually, Pat, buddy, I was having to try to keep up with it at work, and
okay.
I did get home. I did get home to see the third period in the overtime, and the kid that scored and everything. That's probably the best the hockey player in the world.
Yeah, McDavid.
I do keep up with hockey. Yeah, I do keep up with hockey because of the old Bulls that I talked about the other day. I fell in love with hockey then, actually I got a really good friend that's a minority owner of the Bulls down in Pella.
Very nice.
Interesting.
But guys, let's talk a little basketball. And hey, Landrum, how'd you do on those picks the other night when we were talking the other day? The ones I gave you went 3 out of 4. How'd you do?
What picks did you give me? I'm sorry.
I told you Chaney Johnson.
Oh.
I told you to take Sears over the 19.5, and I told you to take the under on Broome, but the one I lost was Denver Jones.
Yeah, I lost the Denver Jones. What did Denver end up with the other night?
He had 9.
Yeah, I had him over 10.5 or more than 10.5. I won on the Broome and I won on the Sears. Yeah.
Yeah, but I was worried about the Chaney Johnson pick at halftime. He only had 2 points at halftime, then he ended up with 12 more in the second half. I think you told me he was about 11.5, I believe.
Yeah, he was, and I won on that one. So yeah, 3 out of the 4,
well,
just like you.
On the Kentucky-Alabama, Pat, I was just told by somebody that Kentucky has 2 guys not playing tomorrow night.
Okay. I will have to check out the injury report from the SEC office.
Yeah, and also, too, guys, Alabama needs to worry about being in that bye because they're getting close to being out of the top 4.
Yeah, we're going to talk to Jerry Palm in just a moment. We'll talk to him from a national perspective. Don, appreciate the call very much. Have a great weekend. Hope to see you Tuesday at Social Tacos. So Jerry Palm will join us next. We will talk about bracketology, where Alabama currently resides. Can they potentially fall off that one line? That's all next on 3-Man Front. It is 11:34, Jocks 94.5. Pat Smith, Langell Roberts, Smalley Robinson with you until 2 o'clock. We'll take you up to the Paul Feinbaum Show. Man, I've known Jerry for a very long time, the absolute best in the business bracketology expert when it comes to all of this in March Madness. He works for CBS Sports now. Jerry Palm joins us on the Buyers Ride Hotline. Jerry, Happy New Year. I hope you're doing well.
Oh, thanks. Same to you.
Well, let's start with the big question that many of us down here are talking about almost on a daily basis, and is the Auburn Tigers. And we watched the show on Saturday, of course, the unanimous decision by the committee as of right now that Auburn is the number one overall seed. What would it take for Auburn maybe to not be the overall number one seed moving forward? Would it take them losing 2 or 3 games left on their schedule? Just your opinion on that.
Yeah, I think a minimum of 2. And of course, it depends on who you lose to. I mean, there's a difference between losing to, say, Arkansas and losing to Florida, right? But yeah, I would say a minimum of 2. They've got, I think it's 14 quad 1 wins. And the last time I looked, which was the other day, I don't think anyone else has got more than 8, which is just, remarkable. Yeah, that's a pretty good gap. Now, not all quad 1 wins are the same, and it's not just quad 1 wins. That's not your resume, your entire resume, but that's just an indicator, though, of just how good Auburn has been against, some of the best teams in the country.
Historically speaking, as long as you've been doing this, you do a wonderful job, Jerry. The metrics and all of that with this Auburn team to this point, historically, where do they compare to some of the other great teams?
Well, I mean, just in terms of like quad 1 wins, Kansas has the record for 17, which was 2 years ago, 2023. And then I think Houston had 15 the year before that. Auburn looks to be on pace to shatter that. So, it's going to be one of the strongest resumes we've ever seen, barring something just going sideways.
All right, so now let me ask you about the University of Alabama. They're trying to avoid a 3-game losing streak as they take on Kentucky tomorrow. You still have them, obviously, on the 1 line. I'm going to ask you the same question about Alabama as I asked you about Auburn. When would Alabama start becoming in jeopardy of not being on that 1 line any longer?
Saturday, if they lose.
Okay.
That if they lose Saturday, they will almost certainly get passed by the winner of the Tennessee A&M game. Now, if Duke loses or Florida loses, and Alabama could still stay on the top line in that, scenario. But if they're the only one up there that loses, then the Tennessee A&M winner will pass them. So it could be Saturday. But, they'll be favored at home against Kentucky. So, go out and win the games you're supposed to win, right?
I'm kind of nitpicking here, but I do want to follow up just to pick your brain. Alabama falling off in the winner of that Tennessee-Texas A&M game. For Texas A&M in particular, I realized that they were without a guy when Alabama beat them in College Station. We've not seen Alabama and Tennessee thus far. That game is coming up. But what would give one of those teams, the winner of that game, the edge over an Alabama team that had just lost?
It's an overall resume. It's not a 1-game season. So Alabama would now have 6 losses. The winner of that game is going to have 5, and they will have both played really strong schedules to get to where they are. They'll have a high number of quality wins. They're not going to have much at all, if any, bad losses. So, it's just likely now that loss, the extra loss overall, is going to push the winner of that game ahead.
Talking to Jerry Palm from CBS Sports, outstanding bracketologist there for CBS. You can follow his work there at cbssports.com. He has just updated within the last hour or so his latest bracketology. Let me ask you about the SEC as a whole. Right now, there's a lot of speculation whether this conference is going to get 11 or 12, or my goodness, could it even be north of 12? We will wait and see what happens there. But just the strength of this conference, we're not used to that down here. Jerry, when you and I started talking back in the mid-'90s, we would be fortunate if you would tell us that there were 3 or 4 SEC teams that were going to make the tournament.
The league wasn't 16 back then either.
Yeah, exactly. So my question to you is, In comparison with what the league is currently doing, where would you put that with some of the other leagues that, within the last 20 years or so in regards to strength heading into the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, it's hard to compare. But the current record for the most teams from one conference is the Big East, had 11 when it was a 16-team league. So now we're talking, at least 10 years ago when that was the case. And the SEC, of course, is a 16-team league too. But I think the record for percentage is the ACC having 6 out of 9 back when they were 9. So 13 would beat that. 12, I think, also beats that off the top of my head. So if they can do that, they could have the highest percentage as well. I think personally the number's going to get closer to 11 because we've talked about all the great teams at the top of the bracket for the SEC. The teams in the middle, not LSU and South Carolina, they're not part of this discussion, but the other teams fighting to get on the bracket, they've got schedules that are going to make it really hard for them to do so. Vanderbilt, Oklahoma, Texas, Georgia, Arkansas, those 5 teams, are fighting. And I have like 2 or 3 of them among my last 4 in almost every bracket I do. But it's going to get harder, as they play, all of these teams at the top of the standings, with these backloaded schedules for all of them to finish their way in the bracket. I would think at least 2 of them don't make it, and might even be 3. So I think in the end, the SEC is closer to 11 than it is to say 13.
Continuing our conversation with CBS Sports bracketologist Jerry Palmy joins us as all of our guests doing the Buyers Right Hotline. We talked about the SEC. Outside of the SEC, for folks who are not really perusing the national landscape outside of the league right now in college basketball, Jerry, who's one of those teams that maybe is finding it at the right time, gelling at the right time, and continuing to rise up in your seeding and the way that you see them maybe beginning in March?
Well, I think the team that's probably made the biggest rise toward the top of the bracket is Wisconsin. And Wisconsin's got 4 conference losses, but they've really played well the last couple of weeks, and they're the number 8 team overall in my bracket, so a 2 seed as of this morning. And, this kind of came out of nowhere, but they picked up some good wins, most notably at Purdue right after they introduced the bracket last Saturday. And they shot 72% in the second half of that game. And John Tanji is having an All-American kind of season for the Badgers. So that's a team that we hadn't written off in terms of making the tournament. They were always going to be a tournament team, but now they've made a surge toward the top of the bracket. I don't know that they can win the league without a significant amount of help because, like I said, 4 conference losses. But that's a team that's playing a lot better right now and looking really dangerous.
Okay, so I'm looking at your updated bracket. The last 4 in, you've got 3 SEC teams, Texas, Oklahoma, and Georgia. And one of the first 4 out is the University of Arkansas. In regards to Arkansas itself, what do you see them having to do? Because with the biggest win they have so far, would that be the Kentucky win at Rupp Arena?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay,
yeah.
So Georgia's got Auburn this weekend, so we anticipate that that's going to be another loss for them. Oklahoma has been trending in the wrong direction. Texas is around middle of the pack of the SEC. But I'm going to go back to Arkansas. Do you see, or perhaps we're still having this conversation about them? Because we anticipate down here in SEC country that the likes of Oklahoma and Georgia potentially are going to fade. What is Arkansas? You think they will be a heavy conversation come Selection Sunday?
Yeah, so this is what I was talking about. These teams at the bottom of the bracket have got problems with their resume and problems with their schedule. I mean, it's a schedule of opportunity, but you just wonder if they're good enough. So Arkansas is currently 15-11 overall. That's 4 games above 500 is the historic minimum for getting in the tournament. Right? You're not getting in the tournament if you're not 4 games above 500. They've got 5 regular season games left, so that's 3-2 to be 1 game above entering the SEC tournament. They have Missouri at home, Texas at home, Mississippi State at home, and then at Vanderbilt and also at South Carolina. So they got to win 3 of those. The home games are nice, but you're playing teams that, with the possible exception of Texas, that are better than you. So, but that's not all. They're 8-11 against the top 3 quadrants. So you take away their quad 4 games, they're 3 games below 500. That's no good either. So usually you have to be no worse than 1 game below against that group. An SEC team might get in this year 2 games below. Now that's still 3-2 to get you 2 games below entering the conference tournament. But then you lose your first game there, you're back to 3 games below, and you're probably not making the tournament. If you're not, within 500 of that group of teams, you take away the worst teams on your schedule, and you're not a 500 team, you're probably not an NCAA tournament team. So, that's, Arkansas has that problem. These other teams that I'm talking about have similar issues to this. But the reason why Arkansas is not in the bracket today is 8-11 against the top 3 quadrants.
Outside of the SEC, UConn, your 2-time defending national champion, you've got them listed on the bubble. It's a 2-part question. Knew that they were going to fall off a little bit, but never expected this. I want to get your thoughts on what has happened to UConn, and then also, what do you think as you look at the stretch and their schedule? What that looks like, the probability of them missing the tournament?
I think they'll make it. But they haven't been trustworthy. They've got some decent wins, right? Gonzaga, Marquette on the road. I mean, that's a great win. Texas, a team they'd be competing with if they were further down the bracket. Creighton, another middle of the bracket team. Baylor, a middle of the bracket team. So Marquette's the only team in really the top half of the bracket among that group of wins. But they just lost to Seton Hall over the weekend, the worst team in the Big East. A team in the 200s of the net, even after that win. Colorado, Dayton, Villanova, Xavier. Now Xavier is in the bracket finally this morning, but it's been a climb for them to get there. So it's that just inconsistency. They had that lost weekend in Maui, but it's not just the lost weekend in Maui. It's just the lack of consistency. Well, they've got at St. John's and Marquette at home, and then 3 teams they should beat. But as we've just learned, you can't count on them to do that. That's why they're on the bubble.
Jerry, before we let you go, I want to ask you this from a historic standpoint. As long as you've been doing this, outside of a team winning its conference championship and getting the automatic bid, let's talk about a team that was on the bubble and they play well and then they get the automatic bid. How much of the hay is in the barn come, let's say, Friday of championship conference week in regards to maybe the committee already wrapping things up? I mean, in other words, how important are conference tournaments to everyone else that's not on that proverbial bubble, so to speak?
You're playing for seeding or for selection. If you're a team that's up near the top already, then you're playing for seeding. And if you're a team that's not even really on the bubble, you're playing for selection. So that's the importance of the conference tournament. So, for bubble teams, but for every team, it's your last chance to make a good impression at the committee. Those games are not more important than any other game. The thing that makes them kind of unique is that they're late season neutral site games in most cases. So, but yeah, I mean, it's your last chance to resume build, and some teams need to do that. Some need it more than others. But yeah, I think there's still, they have provisional brackets on Selection Sunday. There's like 5 conference championships that day, and they'll have a slew of brackets based on results for that day. So people think, well, those games don't count. No, they do. They've just planned it in advance. So they've got a stack of brackets, and then there's a game that happens, and there's a result, and they throw out the brackets that don't have that result in it. So yeah, those games matter, but it's a small percentage of your season. So if you're way off the charts, then the only thing you can do is win your conference tournament. But you have at least one more chance going into that weekend.
That is Jerry Palm, CBS Sports bracketologist. Jerry, always great to catch up. Hopefully we can bug you again as we get closer to the Selection Sunday, of course, down here with Alabama and Auburn. A lot of basketball excitement. So it's something that we are embracing because we never know when it's going to circle back around. So it's fun times down here.
Yeah, it's actually good to see the league doing well.
That is. Jerry Best, we'll talk to you soon.
All right, thanks.
Thanks. That is Jerry Palm joining us on the Buyers Right Hotline For all your insurance, financial, and HR needs, it's Buyers Right Insurance, a Higginbotham partner.
Well, this college basketball weekend or whatever sport you're wanting to watch, there is a great chance with 28 screens, including 2 massive LED video walls, large 110-inch screens, and a giant 283-inch projector screen, that Rambler Sports Bar and Grill is your destination, or needs to be at least, not only this weekend, but come March Madness, come Birmingham Stallions and UFL time. Great place. It's an upscale sports bar. It's located right there in downtown Birmingham, 1630 2nd Avenue South, near Railroad Park to be exact. You're going to go in and you're going to find all of these great screens with all of the sports action, but you're going to fall in love with the menu, from the handhelds, the shareables. You can go fork and knife, just an outstanding menu. They have missed nothing in some of the handcrafted cocktails that they have catered to SEC fans as well as UAB fans. It's Rambler Sports Bar and Grill. They're open Wednesday lunch all the way through Sunday night, but make that your tournament destination, your watch party place throughout the year. Rambler Sports Bar and Grill, 1630 2nd Avenue South, near Railroad Park, and make sure you tell them Landrum from Jocks 94.5 sent you.
Blake Lovell's going to join us at the top of the hour from Southeastern 16, kind of setting the stage for a very another momentous and great weekend of SEC basketball. That's coming up at the top of the hour. Nick Kelly, AL.com as well. A lot going on this Friday. This is Jocks 94.5.
$11.54, Jerry Palm Been doing a long time. He's really good at what he does. Fascinating conversation and revealing to us something that Pat and I were talking about in the break we had never heard, and some of the criteria for what he believes the bracket will look like when it comes to conference wins and how that all shakes out. Pat, that was some good stuff from Jerry.
Yeah, he said that overall, if you're 4 games over 500, that's kind of the minimum. I'm talking about overall, your overall, including your quad 1 through 4 wins.
Right.
But he said if you add up your quad 1 through 3 wins, you better not be more than -2 below 500. And he said the SEC may get a team in with a -2 under 500 based on your 1 through 3 quad wins. But most of the time, it's 1 game under 500 in your top 3 quad wins. So that's some interesting stats. So when you want to go to ncaa.org and pull up the net rankings, you can follow along and see where the likes of Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Georgia all currently fit in, because those are all the teams that are currently on everybody's bubble.
Text line is open, 205-834-9450. Josh in Huntsville listening on the ump. How about this? It's interesting that it happened back in 1986 with the announcement of the New York Yankees today saying that they're going to allow well-groomed beards. I want to know who is actually checking that.
If they're well-groomed?
Yeah. Hey, what is the criteria for a well-groomed beard?
I would say...
I know what it is. What is it for them?
To me, the definition would be what you have.
Okay.
It's
not all over the place.
Correct. As Brian Cashman said when he walked into the locker room today in St. Petersburg, he said, "We're not going to look like Duck Dynasty."
That's awesome.
That was an exact quote.
I'm sure the Robertsons are like, and we don't want to look like the Yankees.
That's right.
Josh says today in 1986, Raleigh Fingers refused to shave off his mustache to comply with the policy of the Reds and ended up retiring instead.
Well, there was a situation back in the late 70s. Al Habrowski was a reliever for the St. Louis Cardinals, and Vern Rapp was the manager of the Cardinals, and he did not want to allow a Fu Manchu mustache that the Mad Hungarian, that was his nickname, what he had as a relief pitcher. And so he literally went toe-to-toe with the management and said that he wasn't going to play if they weren't going to allow him to have the Fu Manchu. So it is historic that different franchises have had battles with their players on the way that they groom themselves.
And back to our visit with Barrett Salee and his animal friends. Posey texts in and says, FYI, snakes and cats are the only animals with slit pupils, and they both hiss. Thank you, Posey.
Yeah, I did not realize that.
We got more of your texts. We'll get to those in the next hour. But coming up next, Blake Lovell, Southeastern 16, our resident bracketologist, going to join us. What it looks like for Blake and the big slate coming up in the SEC this weekend.
It is 12 noon. Welcome back into Three Man Front. Man, what a show so far. Wimp Sanderson joined us in hour number one. Barrett Sallee, Jerry Palm just wrapped up with us a few moments ago. Blake Lovell's going to join us this hour along with Nick Kelly from AL.com, talking about Alabama and Kentucky coming up tomorrow. So much to get into. And before we get to Blake, I want to tell you about Golston Tree Service, 205-337-4018, operated by a certified arborist. Golston Tree Service. They handle the little jobs like trimming hedges or shaping trees, hazardous jobs like line clearance, and big jobs like complete tree removals. They can help you today and this weekend. Call them at 205-337-4018. I've been telling you for a while now, they've got that 24-hour emergency storm work. The number again, 205-337-4018. That is our friends over at Golston Tree Service.
You want to know about what's going on in the SEC when it comes to men's basketball? Nobody better than our friend Blake Lovell of Southeastern 16. He joins us on the Buyers Right hotline. Blake, happy Friday. How are you?
Yeah, doing well, guys. Good to talk to you as always.
Great to talk to you. Thanks for joining us. A lot has happened since we talked to you last week. Of course, we previewed the big matchup that was coming up then in Coleman Coliseum between Auburn and Alabama. Alabama, meanwhile, they don't rebound from that loss, pun intended. They go on the road. You saw what you saw the other night in Como against a Missouri team that is playing well, and they've been playing pretty good basketball all season. How much concern should there be for Nate Oates and the Crimson Tide?
Yeah, I think certainly a little bit, just because, you play those two games against Auburn and Missouri, it's 80 minutes of basketball, and you don't have a lead for a single second. I think when you're the number 3 offensive team in the country and you can't find a way to even, again, lead for a second, a minute, whatever of that game, that's a little concerning. But I think you certainly look at the points they give up, 94 and 110. That's a theme that if obviously 1 year ago at this time, we're having some of those same discussions. I mean, last year, it's kind of fitting that they play Kentucky on Saturday. February 24th last year, they go lose 117-95 at Kentucky. And then, they come back a couple games later, they lose at home to Tennessee, gave up 105 at Florida. And you're like, come on, we can't really think that this is the kind of team that can make a run in an NCAA tournament, right? And then what do? They make it to the Final Four. And so I think it's going to be interesting to see how they respond tomorrow because, again, I was not particularly, probably like most people, impressed with the defensive performance at Missouri. Even at times, kind of when it came down to that stretch run of the Auburn game, I just thought they had some bad defensive possessions. I mean, give Auburn some credit for that. But they've got to be able to turn this around a little bit because as we've talked about for the past couple of weeks now, we've looked at this part of the schedule and said Alabama's going to have the toughest schedule left of anybody in the country. And now they're kind of in the middle of it, losing back-to-back games. And then you play an always, I think, kind of scary Kentucky team tomorrow where you just kind of never know what you're getting from the Cats.
All right, so I know defensively that's a problem. That's their Achilles. But I wanted to ask you about Alabama's offense. Does it surprise you that you're not getting more out of Amori, getting more out of Grant Nelson? Because over the last few weeks, those guys have kind of been MIA from an offensive standpoint.
Yeah, that's definitely been one of the main themes for sure, I think, when you look at just the numbers. Because, as you mentioned, I mean, I would think if they're going to make a run, again, in the NCAA tournament, have a chance to finish strong in the SEC with this kind of schedule, they're going to need more from Grant Nelson, period. I mean, I don't think there's any question about that. Look, there's nothing wrong with having a game where you're going to score 7 or 8 or whatever, but he's got to be someone, I think, just given the nature of this team that is hitting double figures every game. And like you said, with Big Cliff, even just being able to get some more of those putbacks off of offensive rebounds to get you close to that double-digit total each game. Like those are just, again, the differences when you're not a team defensively that is getting as many stops as they need to be getting right now, and also a team that we talked about this season. It's a couple things. They turn the ball over a bit. It kind of comes with the territory sometimes when you're talking about this kind of offense, but they're turning over a bit more this year than they did last year. And then, of course, they're nowhere near as good of a three-point shooting team. And so I think when you add those things in, you need more production just offensively, probably from the guys in the paint. And I feel like, again, that's going to be a theme here as we go down the stretch because I go back to it, but I'm like, this is so kind of fun that this Kentucky matchup is tomorrow because you look at Kentucky and you see what Amari Williams has been doing. Whenever Kentucky's really good, Amari Williams is usually the guy that's sort of driving it. And then look at Andrew Carr and Brandon Garrison and all those guys. I mean, anytime we've kind of seen different guys like that step up. So you would hope if you're Alabama, you get the same sort of thing tomorrow. Between their 3-4 big guys there.
Like we've got an interesting matchup. It's not overall just on paper the best matchup, the sexiest matchup in the complete list of games in the SEC we've had this season, but there's some good ones. And typically when you get those weekends where you think, oh, this is going to be an okay slate, kind of like college football, that's generally where you get your upsets. Tomorrow, what are some of those sneaky games that you're looking at that you think have the potential to raise some eyebrows around the conference?
Yeah, like you said, outside is what are probably just I think that the main attractions, which are looking at Tennessee heading to A&M, obviously the Alabama-Kentucky game, then that Missouri and Arkansas game is fun for a lot of reasons. You can kind of tie that one in, I believe, because when you look at the bubble teams, like we are at that point now where it's like it's make or break for some of these teams in the SEC that are on the bubble. Those 5 teams in particular, we've been talking about for a couple of weeks now: Vanderbilt, Texas, Arkansas, Georgia, Oklahoma. And I think you look at certainly what the opportunity would be for an Arkansas to get a win over a red-hot Missouri team that, based on all the metrics, you look at Bart Torvik, his metrics and all that, Missouri's been the number 2 or number 3 team in the country over the past month or more. And, for Arkansas to get a win like that, which let's call it what it is, Arkansas is playing like probably a top 25 team right now. The record doesn't reflect it, but that would be significant to keep them on the right side of the bubble. But then I think you look at that Vanderbilt Ole Miss game, where the Commodores, just like Alabama, have a brutal remaining schedule, and they're kind of in the thick of it now, where they play an Ole Miss team that I know has won some games here recently, but I've not really been that impressed with the way that Ole Miss has been playing, if you really look at it, right? They're coming off that 10-point home loss to Mississippi State. Even the games before that against LSU and South Carolina, they had to basically grind their way to wins there. Nothing wrong with that. Winning on the road in the SEC is what it is, but I just wasn't impressed with their performances. So I'm curious to see if Vanderbilt can move one step closer. I think this would get them really only a win away if they were to win this game from being able to maybe get that bid to make it to the tournament. So curious to see how it plays out for these bubble teams. Like I said, Arkansas, Vanderbilt, obviously Texas going to South Carolina. If you're a bubble team, you really don't want to be losing at the team that's 0-13 right now in league play. So, lots of interesting matchups for those teams.
Okay, so let's stay on that bubble talk, because we have talked to multiple bracketologists this week, and we just got off the phone with Jerry Palm just a couple minutes ago. Mm-hmm. And he still has Georgia and Oklahoma as part of their last 4 in. What am I missing about this Oklahoma team? I mean, seriously. I mean, where they currently are. I'm not trying to crap on them. I'm just being honest. I just don't understand the resume and why you're still, not you, Blake, but I'm just talking about overall, why people are still talking about them in Georgia right now.
I get it. And I feel like, most years we're looking at this and just saying, how on earth is a team that's 3-10 in SEC play with 5 games to go even being considered for the bubble? But what Oklahoma has going for it are a couple things. And that is, yes, we can say they're 3-10 in the SEC, but they do have 3 great wins that are seemingly getting better and better in non-conference play. That's really helping them out a bit. So the Arizona, Louisville, Michigan wins are all doing work for them right now. And that's where going 13-0, even if some of those games are against just the bottom tier teams, getting those 3 wins in particular is still keeping them ahead of all these teams like SMU and North Carolina and Pitt and these ACC teams that, quite frankly, are in just a bad conference. The ACC is just not good this year. And so by having that, you can kind of say, all right, Oklahoma may be 3-10 in SEC play, but maybe we kind of call it like 6-10, because they do have those 3 great wins in the non-conference that's still kind of helping carry them. So if you're projecting ahead, you kind of look at them and are like, okay, they have 3 of their final 5 games at home. I don't know that they'll be favored in any remaining game. I haven't looked at the spread for tomorrow against Mississippi State, but I would probably pick Mississippi State in that game just based on the matchup. So you have to be able to find wins, though. If the tournament started today, would Oklahoma have a chance to get in? Sure. But we still have 5 more games to go in the regular season, and I don't really see where the wins are going to come for them. But like I mentioned, too, for anyone out there advocating for the NCAA tournament expanding and all of this, we need to add more teams. Well, if Oklahoma's in right now as a 3-10 team in the SEC, which, hey, listen, I've been hyping up the SEC all season long. Historically, this might go down as the best single season for any conference in the history of college basketball. But if you're looking at, hey, we have to expand and add more teams, this is what you get. Like, this is where you have these bubble resumes where I don't love Oklahoma's resume at all. I hate the way they're playing right now. But their resume overall is probably still better than half these ACC teams that are sitting there trying to compete with them for these spots. And then you're comparing them to a team like Indiana, Boise State in the Mountain West, and all that. I mean, listen, I'd probably still take Oklahoma, but that's just kind of where we are when we start talking about these bubble teams.
Blake, you've probably been asked just like we have, but I continue to have people that ask, and particularly when it comes to Bruce Pearl and the Auburn Tigers, when it comes to Nashville and the SEC basketball tournament, how do you handle that? If you're Auburn, you're Bruce, and maybe some of those other teams that are slated to be a 1 or a 2 seed, how do you think that will be handled?
Yeah, our viewers and listeners do not seem to like my opinion on this, but I am pretty strong advocate this year of like, I'm not saying teams should go out and throw a win or anything, right? I'm not saying that. You're not going to go out and try to lose games, but I have brought up that same point of like, because this is a year where this is such a historical achievement for SEC basketball, and you have teams that every single year, what do we say about the SEC tournament? And maybe it changes this year because you have a full day on Wednesday. I don't know. I don't think it's going to, but the committee never seems to value what happens in the SEC tournament beyond maybe Thursday. And so for that reason, if you're Auburn, who will likely at that point, if they finish the way they've been playing, will have a multiple game lead on the number 1 overall seed. And you're sitting there realizing that there is legitimately nothing you can do in the SEC tournament that's going to change your seeding whatsoever. You could come out and lose by 50, and you're still going to be the number 1 overall seed. You could come out and beat everybody by 50, and you're still going to be the number 1 overall seed. Then it does become tricky, right? And of course, the moment I think about is sitting there in Nashville last year in the second row on Media Row, and I'm looking at Micah Henlogden getting the injury he got for Florida. And right there, 10 feet away. And I know injuries are part of the game, right? But we're putting this within the context this year of understanding that there's always been a frustration with the committee seemingly not valuing these conference tournaments. I mean, it's just been the way it is. Look at the seeding last year. We were shocked that Auburn was where they were. Florida was where they were. And they met on Sunday in the championship game. So if you're looking at teams like that, Alabama, Florida, Auburn, whoever else feels like they've got their seeding locked up, sure. I think there's certainly a scenario where you're like, hey, this really doesn't do anything for us. Is there an opportunity, where, hey, maybe we're just going to try some different things and understanding this isn't the end all be all. Everyone wants to win championships. I get it. But man, this is just one of those weird years where it's not really going to do anything for you if you're one of these top 3, 4 teams in the SEC.
Talk me out of this next statement. Mississippi State is the most dangerous team in the Southeastern Conference.
Well, I guess there's a lot of ways you could go with that. Because
Okay.
they are a team that, you have a guy like Josh Hubbard, right? And so I think anytime you have someone who can go off like that, you're always going to give yourself a chance. And the offensive upside on this team, I think, is much higher than it's been in recent years under Chris Chance. I don't think there's any question about that. The one thing that worries me about Mississippi State, and this has been the common thread that we've seen from them this season. Now, back-to-back games, they've looked okay in this department, but one of those games against Texas A&M, who can't shoot the ball for anything. They are just a bad perimeter defense team, and I think if they run into the wrong matchup against the likes of, well, the teams we've already seen them, high-octane offensive teams like Kentucky, Auburn, Alabama, Missouri, what happens? They give up a ton of points because they are letting teams just go bombs away from 3. And they are still like, even though they've had 2 good performances back to back in defending the 3, they're still like in the 280s nationally and allowing opponents to shoot just a ridiculous rate from 3. That's the one thing that worries me a little bit about Mississippi State. If they come out and get one of those teams right off the bat, let's say in a tournament setting, that just can shoot the ball, they have not proven much at all over the past 2 months that they can stop teams from shooting on the 3-point line and making shots and giving them open shots. And so that worries me a bit about them. The team I'd replace it with would be Kentucky, because I just keep saying it's not a matter of, we know Kentucky's not a great defensive team, but the fact is you don't know game to game who's going to show up and play for Kentucky, right? Because they've just been dealing with all the injuries all season. There's so many different rotations that it's impossible to prepare for them. But the offensive upside for Kentucky reminds me of a team I saw last year, and that's Alabama. except with a few more injuries. Can Kentucky get healthy? If they can, they might be the most dangerous team out there.
When it's all said and done, Blake, you make bold predictions. What SEC schools are looking for new men's basketball coaches at the end of the season?
Ooh, it's a great question because I love the way you worded it, and I know you worded it a certain way for a reason because not necessarily it's just going to be people who may lose their job in terms of a firing, but could there be someone out there that leaves for another job? Well, obviously the Chris Beard to Indiana rumors and all that kind of stuff could make for an interesting, I think, discussion there. So I will set the number at 2, but I think some of that is partly does someone leave for a bigger job in that kind of scenario? And do we see? I mean, I think, look, it's fair to say if Oklahoma were to finish poorly here, I think maybe they've reached the point of no return there, even despite the fact that, as we said a few minutes ago, they're considered to be a tournament team right now. But if they were to finish, let's say, 4-14 in the SEC, or even, I don't know that anything at this point is going to maybe kind of change the fan opinion of things. So that's not one I'd be shocked by based on how they finish here.
Is there any potential of a Mark Byington from Vanderbilt maybe going to Virginia? That job opens up?
Definitely been something I've heard about. I think there are some pretty strong rumors that would be a possibility. And I think anytime you consider that, that's also going to play into how does Vanderbilt finish here, because obviously they were the talk of the town, probably 2 or 3 weeks ago. Now they've lost 5 of 6. Does a bad finish, and let's say they don't make the NCAA tournament, does that change your opinion if you're Virginia? I would say probably so. I would think the fan base would look at that a little bit differently, even though we all know, I mean, he's done a tremendous job this season. He's kind of had, limitations with the roster coming in. We knew that. We didn't think this was going to be a team that would probably compete for an NCAA tournament, yet here they are. So I do think that's one to watch for because, like we always say, too, I think it's a matter of what are you putting into it. I think Vanderbilt has certainly made more of an effort to put the resources into basketball and all that. I think they've certainly tried hard to do it, but are they still playing a little bit behind everyone else? We maybe are about to find out this offseason.
And I know he reached the tournament last year, and he's just in his 3rd season, but I'm guessing that Lamont Paris will get a little more leeway. He's built up some equity there in Columbia, South Carolina.
Yeah, I think it's sort of just a matter of, look, last year was really so special for them that it's probably hard just to – and look, the year before was rough, but I think you're always going to see in those kind of scenarios. I've always said this. I think South Carolina is probably the toughest job in the SEC in basketball right now. I just feel like it's one of those two, and I'm sure you guys saw the report, the whole report about, well, LSU is going to bring back Matt McMahon because they're going to put more into basketball. They're going to, give it one more run here, invest some more resources in NIL, all that kind of stuff, really try to pump that up. Well, I think it's kind of always been the case for South Carolina too. It's a matter of, hey, what are they putting into this? Are they going to put everything they need to be able to be a team that can win games every single year in the SEC? Again, last year they did something really special. And so even if they were to, well, the caveat's this, I always say, if you go over in the SEC, all bets are off. Of course, we saw that with Dennis Gates last year, and look at what they're doing this year. Maybe that's the same thought for South Carolina. All it's going to take is one off season. Let's put a little bit more into it from a resources standpoint. Let's see if he can turn it around next year. But I think that's where that discussion gets a little more interesting probably next season.
He is one of the best. Blake Lovell, Southeastern 16, at the Blake Lovell there on Twitter. Blake, we always appreciate the time. Also, your YouTube, we can find you on YouTube with your instant reaction tomorrow for the full slate of SEC games, and that is always great stuff as well. Thank you for your time.
Absolutely. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks.
Blake Lovell joining us on the Buyers Right hotline for all of your insurance, financial, and HR needs. It's Buyers Right Insurance, Pat, a Higginbotham partner.
I've told you for some time now that other dealerships do not have the inventory as deep as Courtesy GMC and Trustful, or the outstanding pricing on the AT4X. $11,000 off MSRP, multiple to choose from. I stopped by the dealership last week, and I got an opportunity to sit in one of these Sierra AT4Xs and just taking a look at this vehicle. It is incredible. Front and rear electronic locking differentials, a combination not offered in any competitor in its class. Multimatic DSSV dampers. I'm telling you, 16-way power heated and ventilated front seats and massage features. It's an incredible vehicle. $11,000 off right now. Also at Courtesy GMC, the SLT Premium Package Plus trucks. They're almost gone. They're $13,000 off MSRP. Other dealerships are still trying to get rid of the 2024 models, so you can go get a brand new 2025, $13,000 off MSRP. Courtesy has 2025s at 2024 pricing and incredible deals today. Get by them and see them this weekend. They also have the 2025 Sierra Denali's up to $13,000 off on those 22-inch wheels. Courtesy GMC, courtesybirmingham.com is the website. Visit them in Trussville on Edwards Lake Road, right off of I-459 exit 32 next to Lowe's.
Updated college basketball lines that you need to know about and what makes Fridays better. Your text. We'll do that next on 3-Man Front. $12:24, 3-Man Front here on this Friday. Blake Lovell stopping in. We're going to talk to Nick Kelly, covers the Alabama Crimson Tide, coming up in just about 6-7 minutes. Updated college basketball lines. Pat, we have an updated line for both Alabama and Kentucky, and also the Deep South's oldest rivalry when it comes to football. The basketball game between Bruce Pearl's Auburn Tigers and Mike White's Georgia Bulldogs at Neville.
Well, it's interesting because Alabama opened up as a 7.5 point favorite, and it is now ballooned to 8.5.
Ooh.
Meanwhile, Auburn is a 17.5 point favorite. That's a little bit farther north than you and I had predicted.
I was thinking 11.5. We were like 11.5, 12.
12. Yeah. So, yeah, 17.5 point favorite
You think Mike
Tomorrow
White's,
nibble.
You think Mike White's already got players being poached? You think that's the reason?
He's probably on his phone with his brother because his brother's still pissed off at Nebraska for canceling the games.
Danny, can I come work for you?
Yeah.
And text line is open, 205-834-9450. Doug texted into the show. Thank you, Doug. And he says, no hockey last night, but I appreciate how y'all made an SEC football reference when talking about hockey.
Of course.
You know which side of your grits are buttered.
There you go. Oh, and speaking of that game.
Molly like that. You could hear her laughing.
Speaking of that game, we talked about it before. There was more cash on the Canada-USA hockey game last night than any of the 5 NBA games combined. Last night, just came out a few moments ago, it was the most wagered hockey game in the history of gambling.
That's awesome.
That was first time for me. My $6.
Well, you contributed to that.
And I'll give you credit. You did not say it on the air, but you told me.
I gave you a little before you
did.
left.
And I said I can't do it. I've got to fire in on the USA. But you did not like USA money line last night.
I did not, and I played it that way twice. That's why I told you I can buy you lunch today.
Yeah. Speaking of that, though, man, the more I thought about some of the menu items at the concessions, I want a lobster and cheese sandwich.
I would love one of those steak sandwiches.
The steak sandwich with the pickled vegetables?
That sounded really, really good. Also, according to the betting handle last night, and this just shows you how dominating the NFL is when it comes to Sundays and wagering, that last night, historic night of gambling on the hockey game, that would basically be a very typical handle on a Sunday afternoon, any typical NFL game during the regular season.
Oh, wow.
That just tells you how much is gambled on the National Football League. For a game of that magnitude last night, barely is a middle of the road, random Sunday afternoon game in the NFL.
It's crazy.
Back to the text. Jody texted into the show with the announcement that Nebraska has chickened out.
Yeah, it's bad look.
The series with Tennessee in football.
And it's not 500,000, by the way. It's $1 million.
Woo.
They had to pay him $1 million.
You're welcome.
Well, wonder where that's coming from.
Yeah,
hopefully it's not your NIL.
They pay $1 million, and now they've scheduled Northern Iowa.
Wow.
It's big time. Yeah. Big time program Matt Rule's running there.
We need to find the wins where we can get them.
Molly, that'll be fun. You flying up to Lincoln to go. You were going to be watching Tennessee and Nebraska, and now you're going to be watching Northern Iowa. But you know what? You'll have fun.
I will. Have fun no matter what.
Yeah. Jody says, with all these cancellations going on, please do not cancel Taco Tuesday from the Taco Terrace at Social Taco. Let us have that at least.
That's not going anywhere.
We can report that is not going anywhere. Mark says, heck yes, Wimp is correct regarding how tough it was in the SEC when he was at Bama. Home and home, playing everyone twice was tough. Yeah, that was, and some of those teams, oh my gosh, they were so good. Michael is asking, with ESPN doing away with Major League Baseball, in case you missed that, they're canceling Major League Baseball. They're not going to be carrying those games anymore. Michael asked the question, how much is ESPN wasting on the WNBA? Well, to be exact, roughly, well, not exact, but they average around $200 million per year. That last deal that they did. That was an 11-year contract. That was what I saw. So $200 million per year. And they were paying how much for Major League Baseball?
550.
I guess there's people weigh all that out.
They're paying $1.4 billion for the NBA per year and $2.7 billion for the NFL.
Winning the actual regular season in a conference should mean something. It should be an auto bid. Talking about the regular season instead of the tournament.
Yeah.
There's something to be said for that.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I mean, because you're showing over a course of 18 games who the best team is.
Instead of getting hot. I mean, go back to Temple a couple of years ago.
Oh,
How-
yeah. They were one of the worst teams in the American
How
Conference.
dreadful that team was. Wasn't that when the gambling allegations came
Yeah,
out?
because they played UAB like 2 weeks before. And that was the game that U.S. Integrity had literally like wiped Temple off the board after that game because there were some questions and the amount of gambling that was done, especially in the second half of the game against UAB.
And Joshua Huntsville had no idea this text was out there, but he said random. But I recently just found out Temple pays the Eagles $4.5 million just to play in that stadium. How is the program still running? I can't imagine many passionate Temple football fans out there. I have no idea.
Well, they have to play somewhere because back in the old days, they played in Veterans Stadium. Back in the old days. So they got to play somewhere.
Keep the text rolling in. We'll continue to get your text throughout this Friday edition of Three Man Front. Our buddy Nick Kelly, who covers the Alabama Crimson Tide, will get the latest from Nick. He's next.
It is 12:34, Jocks 94.5 on this Friday. A lot of basketball talk. We are that part of the season. Nick Kelly does an outstanding job covering the Alabama Crimson Tide, both in Alabama football and basketball. Joins us now on Three Man Front. Nick, you wrote a column the other day, an article, I should say, detailing Alabama's problems in the second half defensively. Man, the other night, it just didn't want in the second half. It was the first half, too. That was pretty brutal in Columbia.
Yeah, it was. And honestly, I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but I think the points per possession allowed, which is a really good stat to measure efficiency, was actually better in the second half because it was so bad in the first, but it was pretty close, I think. So, yeah, not a number they want to be at, and definitely not a defensive effort that they want to keep having.
Nick, have you been able to put your finger on or just gather, and this could be just merely speculation, and we'd love to hear your opinion, with this Alabama team, because at times there just looks like there is a lack of cohesion, whether it's on the offensive end and especially on the defensive end. Like, you've got 5 guys out there, but they really don't know what the other is doing. Is that a fair assessment, and have you been able to pinpoint maybe one of the reasons why?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's totally fair. I just think that part of it is that they're still trying to figure out a little bit of what's the best groups to have out there together. And the other thing is, like, I get when Alabama loses to Auburn, people take that strongly. And I think some of the football mindset creeps in of when you lose a game and then you lose 2 games that, oh man, things are in big trouble. And don't get me wrong, I've been critical of how they played the last 2 games, but it's still a team that's won a ton of games this year. So it's not like they have to reinvent things, but I think it's a case of, they could play better together. They could have better maybe lineups on the floor, and that's what I think they were trying to do with moving LeBaron into that starting lineup because they want creators on the floor who can create for each other. So I think some of it's figuring out what's the best role you can use guys in, and also what's the best way and spot to maybe set guys up for success, and make sure that on the player side, make sure you're unselfish. Make sure that, if you don't have a good shot, that you have what they like to call paint patience when they're in the paint and dish it to someone else, beat someone else. So, I don't think it's a wide sweeping, they've got to, totally reinvent the wheel. I just think that, you got to fix some things, and facing 2 really good teams like they had the last 2 games, they got exposed a little bit.
For me, watching this team, and we can have a discussion, or you can say, Pat, you're crazy, but it was startling to me to see how bad the post defense was. And I'm talking about how they did not have an answer. And I'm talking about Nelson, Amori, even Diabate at times. They look completely lost on the defensive end, trying to stop the down low post game of Mizzou. And there's no doubt that teams see that on tape, and they're going to keep going to the well there. Am I crazy looking at that, or did you notice the same thing?
Yeah, I think I saw some of that, and I definitely think it could be better. And figuring out, making sure that you're feeding guys into the rim protection that you get from Cliff Amore well. But to me, it just seemed like there were too many just easy open opportunities and looks that Missouri had that just too easy of paths to the basket. And I'm no elite basketball mind, but I just think that you've got to find ways to make it harder to get just easy baskets and good looks, and try to create more interference almost on the way to the basket. So, I think, top to bottom, they've got to improve the defense, because whatever it was against Missouri and really what it was against Auburn was not good enough.
I'm not going to ask you best case and worst case with Alabama's remaining schedule, because we could easily say they could win all the games. They could lose the rest of their games. That's just what the SEC is this season. But, Nick, if you're saying most likely when you look at this last stretch of games, where does Alabama end up prior to getting to Nashville?
I'm trying to figure that out myself, to be honest with you, because going into like the last game or so, I was thinking, hey, if you go 4-2 after this or over this tough stretch, that's a really good run. But at this point, I'm not sure that, if they keep playing like they have, and they have a slump like they did to end last year, they could lose more than half of them. So I think worst case scenario is you lose half of them. Best case is you win out, and they easily could. This is a good Alabama basketball team when they reach what they're capable of. The problem is they don't always do what they're capable of. And I think you see that individually and collectively. Individually, it's guys like Grant Nelson and Jaron Stevenson, two guys who can take over basketball games, two guys who have the ability to impose their will and be impossible or darn near impossible to guard and stop. But many times we don't see those two guys show up in that way. Now, season fatigue, getting banged up, things can play a role in that regard down the stretch. I think it has to an extent, but at the same time, I think you're not seeing certain guys play up to their potential, and that needs to happen if they're going to win out.
In regards to guys playing up to their potential, and you just touched on it, I was surprised the other night, again, the rotation of certain guys, but were you surprised that maybe Holloway and Sears wasn't on the court a lot more together, or is that just part of the general rotation because you've definitely followed this a lot closer game by game than I have?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something that has been considered, but at the same time, so far, I think they've wanted them almost separate more often than not, just because of what they can do as creators, just that term to be able to create shots for themselves and for others, frankly. And so they had, because they consider, they have LeBaron, Aiden Holloway, and they have Mark Sears as their kind of three creators. And so they started putting Sears and Phylon on the court more together this last game because I think when you have Phylon on the court, that can set Mark up for more success, so he doesn't have to always be the guy who takes it and always have to be that point guard, so to speak. But yeah, I think you have to answer your question, Pat. I think you have to keep mixing and matching a little bit and see what works best and try some different things, because now offensively they did pretty darn well. I mean, they scored 98 points. So to me, it's what gives you the best matchups defensively and what puts you in a spot to succeed defensively.
Nick Kelly, who covers the Alabama Crimson Tide, joining us here on Three Man Front. All of our guests join us on the Buyers Right Hotline. I saw it again last night, and again, these are all just rumors, but as far as North Carolina and potential vacancy for their head men's basketball coaching job, Nate Oates, his name continues to be thrown about. Are you hearing anything on your end, and what would be the probability that a Nate Oates would listen to North Carolina and then furthermore maybe take that job?
I mean, I'd be surprised, and I say that because the fact that he was not hired at Kentucky tells me that most likely if he's going to leave at this point, I would guess it'd be for an NBA job. That's not me saying that on direct intel. I guess I would almost call it an educated guess. In that I think at this point it would take an NBA job to pull him away from Alabama. And I think that's because we didn't see him go to a Kentucky last year. I mean, I know the buyout was high, but there's a will, there's a way. And the fact that too, Kentucky's in the SEC, and right now I think you want to be in the SEC if you're coaching basketball. And not even just coaching basketball, if you're coaching, period, with the SEC and the Big Ten being essentially the top two leagues in college athletics right now from a financial perspective. So you never say never. You can't speak in absolutes, but I think it just would surprise me considering that he didn't go to Kentucky, and that at this point I think if he's going to leave, it's going to go to the NBA.
That is Nick Kelly. Does an outstanding job covering the Alabama Crimson Tide. I hope you get into Coleman Coliseum early enough to where you can get one of those free T-shirts tomorrow, Nick.
As you can imagine, I have some other, priorities, but if that's what happens, I guess that's what happens.
Well, Landrum wants a T-shirt, so I was hoping that you would be able to snag him one.
Come on, man.
See if I can come up with one. Well, Landrum, you got to get better people to help you out, because I'm probably low in that totem pole. So, call some folks in Alabama, but I'll see what I can do.
All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate the effort anyways. I won't hold it against you.
All right. Now, last question, completely off of Alabama, but you're a good Minnesotan, right? Didn't you grow up in Minnesota?
I did. I try to be a good Minnesotan, but I've become pretty soft now that I've moved down here for a while. So.
Okay. Well, the reason I asked you that is because I suppose you probably played a little hockey, maybe, in your lifetime. Is that too much of an assumption on my behalf?
It's a fair assumption. I do have skates in my trunk, but I've skated a good bit, but I never actually played it like organized hockey.
Okay, well, I was just curious if you and your wife tuned in last night and watched the hockey game.
You strike me as an enforcer.
Yes, he's a Kachuk. That's what he is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
My dad actually played a lot of hockey, and he even played some adult hockey. And he's probably more unfortunate than I am, but he definitely could have been a Kachuk. But yeah, disappointing to see Canada pull it out. But no, it's fun to see all the people tuning into hockey, because I mean, I actually grew up more of a football guy, even though I was growing up in Minnesota. But definitely, you kind of fall in love with hockey being in that spot. So it's fun to see all the folks interested in hockey right now.
Besides hockey, what do you think of when you think of Canada?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, cold. I've never actually been, but I think
You've
it's
never
cold.
been
I
across
think
the
of-
border? You live like
No,
like 30 minutes from Canada. You've never been to Canada before?
No, I actually, I frankly need to go. And a lot of people in the Alabama beat joke that I'm from Canada, but no, I actually I've never been. Yeah, I was really close one time. I was probably about 20 minutes away and got a text to my phone that said like "Welcome to Canada," but I've never actually crossed the border. So.
Oh.
Nor have I, and nor will I. No, I don't say that. I'd actually like to go to Canada just to try it out one time. Well, Nick, we appreciate the time.
It's like a food.
Yeah.
I'm gonna just try it out one
Yeah.
time. See if I like it, I'll go back.
Yeah.
Well, no, good talking with you guys, and I did not expect this conversation to take that turn, but I enjoyed it. So.
Hey, you
Well, good.
Hey, you never know. The next time you turn up to Social Taco, what kind of conversation
We were trying to see what kind of range you had,
Yeah.
and that was
You've
kind of
passed.
the weather balloon.
Yeah, you've passed.
And you passed.
Yeah, you're
So our next get together at Social Taco will be totally different than any previous visits you've had there.
Hey, look, I mean, I enjoy the stay on my toes, so that's why I keep joining. So I never know what's going to be brought up. So it's always enjoy it, guys.
Well, we appreciate you, man. And if you can get the T-shirt, fine, but I won't hold it against you.
Well, I don't think they have it at the media entrance. That's the problem. So I don't think I'll be walking in a spot they'd be getting them. So.
But listen, you know people down there. You can make it happen.
You know people.
You know people in the chaos. They can help you.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I don't like to make promises I can't keep, guys. So I don't want to get ahead of my skis.
We respect
here. So
that.
To give you a metaphor for up north, I don't want to get ahead of my skis. So.
There you go. All right.
There it is.
All right, Yankee. All right, we'll talk to you next time, Nick.
Have a good one, guys. We'll see you.
See ya. That is Nick Kelly.
Got skates in his trunk.
How about that? He's ready for a hockey game.
So
Sorry.
around here, you got people that have their
That's a true Minnesotan.
they have their tennis rackets or golf clubs in their. No, not him.
No.
Just randomly. Hey, you know what? You want to go ice skating?
But
Oh, sure. I've got my skates just back here.
But see, I used to always have a baseball glove. and
Yeah.
Baseball.
I always had my pom poms.
Just in case a
Yeah.
cheering exhibition.
Yeah, just
Comes
in
into-
case.
yeah.
Or like, what if you forget to pack them one day? You just have them in your car.
I'd have a roll of
Always have a backup.
polyethylene, duct tape, and a bag of lime.
How about your zip ties?
Kidding.
Oh boy. All right.
Don't text or email or call.
Well, it is a filthy Friday.
That is a filthy Friday. Hopefully people caught that.
Yeah. Hope so. That was one of my better lines of today. It's 1248, more three-man front. This is Jocks 94.5. Welcome back to Three Man Front on this Friday. Pat Landrum, Molly. Conrad was scheduled to be down at the beach today. Did you guys hear what happened? Yes, no, maybe.
Is he just distraught over the Yankees news?
No, he contacted me yesterday afternoon. He had a blowout going down to the beach, and Paige had to come get him, and he is at home this weekend.
Oh, that stinks.
Did not get to make the trip to the beach. He says he's got a great story that he will share with us on Monday.
Well, I was going to follow up with a joke, but that is unfortunate, and that can be scary at times. You ever been on the interstate when an 18-wheeler has a blowout right next to your window?
Not that close to me, but I've seen it in front of me.
Yeah,
a good enough distance for me to be, out of harm's way. But yeah, it
happened to me on the interstate, and I'll never forget. It was the exit right there in Anniston, and woo, we want to talk about scary.
That happened to me. Me and my friends in college. We were driving up to Sturgis, or we were right around, I think, Wall, South Dakota, and sure enough, it was an 18-wheeler. It was like way in front of us, but it had a blowout.
Well, it's the noise, first of all.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Then if it sways a little bit, it can cause you to react. But
So I saw this story, and it was odd. And Landrum and I were just talking about it a minute ago. So the Bowling Green Falcons, they have canceled a future football game on the road against Arizona State. So there's a lot of schools today that it's coming out that they're canceling games. Earlier, we were telling you about how Nebraska has canceled a 2-game series with the University of Tennessee. And so now it's coming out that Bowling Green, they were scheduled to make $1.2 million to go play Arizona State. And I'm starting to think, okay, this is weird because Bowling Green needs the money. And the reason that they were giving was because they wanted to play a college, I think it was St. Francis University. And I'm like going, okay, you're not going to make $1.2 million to play Arizona State, and instead you're going to have a home game against St. Francis University Red Flash.
Yeah.
And so then I started doing a little bit more digging. So apparently, once Nebraska chickened out of their game with an SEC opponent, they called Bowling Green. So now Bowling Green is playing Nebraska.
They're on the schedule, yeah.
As opposed to going to Arizona State. Now they're going to have to buy out. I suppose that whatever Nebraska is going to pay Bowling Green is going to offset the cost of them buying out the contract with Arizona State.
Mm-hmm.
So that just shows you how the domino effect takes place.
They just want to come to Lincoln.
Okay, you tell yourself that. Tempe's
great, though. Don't get me
Tempe or Lincoln, Nebraska. Sorry, Molly. That's not even a fair conversation.
St. Francis.
It's in Pennsylvania, I think.
I'm looking at Loretto, Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
I was just, looking at their head coach is Chris Villarreal. He's in his 14th season. You know what his winning percentage is?
.874.
41%.
Oh, wow.
He is 60 and 86 overall. So you're not even playing.
And he's been there how long?
14 seasons.
Okay. Good for him for sticking around 14 years with that record.
Is it Father Chris Villarreal? Does he do something else at the school?
I'm sure he teaches a class.
They could play at DeGaulle Field, which is a capacity of 3,500.
I just don't like how Nebraska is absolutely turning college football up on its backside because of their scared tactics of not playing an SEC team.
What say you, bearded one?
Well, if I were Matt Rule on the team, I probably wouldn't want to play Tennessee either, especially when we're rebuilding.
How long does the rebuild go on?
3 decades, according to Nebraska.
Though, yeah.
Yes.
3 decades.
It's been a minute.
Can we get the helium back
Since
in Lincoln?
I've been alive.
Can we get helium balloons back?
I wish. I miss them.
Would you make your voice sound funny? With the
I never did
No,
it.
don't
I
do that.
couldn't.
Remember the worst thing I've seen?
the lady that died at the birthday party.
Yeah.
But she's sucking it right from the tank. I almost did it.
Welcome into the fourth hour of Three Man Front on this Friday. Pat, Molly, Landrum with you until 2 o'clock. We'll take you up to the Paul Feinbaum Show. Conrad will be back in studio with us on Monday. It has been a jam-packed show today. If you missed any of our interviews with Wimp Sanderson, Barrett Sallee, Jerry Palm, Blake Lovell, and you just heard from Nick Kelly last half hour, you can download the Three Man Front podcast, and you will be able to listen to all those interviews in their entirety. A lot of discussion today about what's going on with the college basketball scene this weekend. Alabama is an 8.5-point favorite tomorrow afternoon at Coleman Coliseum. Auburn is a 17.5-point favorite. Meanwhile, Samford plays their final home game tomorrow afternoon at the Pete Hanna Center. And you've got UAB. They will be at home on Sunday taking on the Temple Owls. I'm tired of UAB playing all the Owls. So every time I turn around, it's another owl.
Rice, FAU, Temple.
Yeah, it's just everywhere. It's rampant in the American.
Who's next? Kennesaw State?
Should be. They should put them on the schedule. Andy should put them on the schedule. Non-conference.
Put them on the schedule.
Play four Owls. I think that's it, right? In Division I?
Think so.
And three of them are in the same conference. That's pretty amazing.
Unless there's one more. Seems like maybe there was 5. Molly will look it up. But yeah, you're right. And 17.5, that was the line for Auburn and Georgia.
Yep.
Alabama, 8.5. Kentucky's got a couple of guys out. Their injuries, they keep dealing with them.
Yeah, that line opened up at 7, and then it ballooned to 8.5 once. I think the reports were coming out in regards to who's available for Kentucky. Also today, news coming out that the city of St. Louis has been awarded the UFL championship game again. I know.
Lame.
I mean, look, I understand it from the UFL side of things. They put a lot of people inside of the dome. It looks good on TV.
Are they just rolling the dice hoping that St. Louis will be in the championship game?
Yeah, like they were last year, and it looked like St. Louis was going to be.
And look how that turned out, though.
Look how that turned. Was it San Antonio?
It was.
The Brahmas?
It says here that in this report, this is coming out of the city of St. Louis, the reporting that the UFL also looked at holding the title game in Washington, D.C. or Seattle.
Seattle.
However, both fields will be occupied by FIFA World Cup games and thus cannot be used.
And so Birmingham is not. Okay.
The league's original plan was to rotate sites for the championship games as per the XFL rulebook. Remember, USFL merged to the UFL. But they wanted to avoid June weather for the championship game in the states of Texas and Alabama. So they did actually consider a protective stadium.
Okay.
So you're going to opt for an air-conditioned dome? Or a heat index of 105?
Sounds like they're scared.
Pansies.
The Battlehawks are currently, according to DraftKings Sportsbook, are the second highest favored team to win the UFL championship. Behind the Birmingham Stallions.
There it is.
Giddy up.
Giddy up.
Birmingham is currently a plus 200 to win the UFL championship. St. Louis is plus 350.
Speaking of that, somebody on our text line had asked, do you think with ESPN doing away with Major League Baseball and the $550 million they were paying annually for that they would increase and enhance their UFL coverage?
They should.
It's a good thought.
They should. I mean, they own half the product, so it seems like that would be a good move. Also today, the home schedule for the Birmingham Stallions was announced. And they have, out of the 5 home games, they've got 2 Friday night games.
Love it.
They have 2 Sunday games. One Sunday game is 11 a.m.
Don't love that.
The other one's at 3 o'clock. And then they have only 1 Saturday game. So 2 Fridays, 2 Sundays, 1 Saturday.
Who are the opponents on the Fridays?
The Fridays, you've got the Arlington Renegades and the Memphis Showboats.
Okay.
And then the one Saturday game is the Michigan Panthers. That's a 2 o'clock kickoff from Protective Stadium. And then the 2 Sunday games is May the 11th. That's an 11 a.m. game against the Houston Roughnecks. And then the final home game of the year is on May the 4th. That's a 3:00 kick on Sunday against the San Antonio Brahmas.
Huh.
So I'm like you, the 11 a.m. kick on a Sunday morning in Birmingham, that is probably going to be a very...
It's not going to go over very well.
No, that's not going to be a very well-attended game.
Yeah, you can pull that off in other cities, but there will be a lot of folks who will not be there.
No, they will not.
Actually, I will go out on a limb, and I will say that will be your least attended game of the 5-game home.
Mm-hmm. Do you like the Friday night?
No, I like the Friday night.
You like the Friday night?
Yeah. Friday night, summertime, spring. It's perfect just for me personally, because every other time of the year, I'm probably going to have something that I have to do, or I'm going to be obligated to do work-wise with different stuff. But no, it's wide open for me. We're just going to go ahead and say that we're committing to it, right?
Yeah.
All right.
We are.
I've got a whole new get up this year.
I'm
going to be breaking out.
Don was telling us that they got a big spread, right? Tailgate area. Didn't he tell us that? Or did I dream that?
Did he say that?
No, he might have been telling. Yeah, I don't think he might not have been there. I think it was me and Conrad. He was naming off 3 or 4 sponsors and restaurants that will be providing tailgate stuff for them. And the Horsemen,
that's right.
And the Horsemen.
I think I do remember that.
Yep. So right there, the same setup that he had last year at Protective Stadium.
Is everyone invited while supplies last?
I believe so.
You show up?
I believe so. I mean, Molly was a little arrogant last year. She didn't want to. She had certain dietary restrictions.
Well, she doesn't.
I am a very picky eater.
She doesn't know how to use chopsticks.
No, you're right. I don't.
Yeah, I thought the sushi station was pretty cool though.
Oh, it was great. The carving stations that they had there in the parking lot.
Yeah. Roast beef. It's good stuff.
That heat lamp. Ooh, got hot.
The big story nationally, unfortunately, the United States, they lose last night in hockey to the Canadians in overtime. And Molly, our 3-man front Twitter poll question of the day had to do about how much you watched last night, if you watched it all. And it's pretty surprising, the results.
Yeah, so the options we gave you were some, not much, 2 periods worth, drop of the puck to finish, or absolutely none. And I'm really disappointed still in the results. 44.4% saying they didn't watch any of it. With 24.1% saying drop of the puck to finish, about 18.1% saying 2 periods worth, and then 13.3% saying some, but not much.
Still waiting on the ratings to come out for it. The first meeting between the two, which was basically a boxing match in the first period of that hockey game, it drew about 4.5 million people nationally. I got a feeling that number is going to be through the roof in regards to watching last night, not only in this country, but in Canada. So
I'm looking at this. I told you that my wife had asked me, what do you think the toughest sport as far as physically demanding? And MMA and boxing were there at the top. I'm looking at the degree of difficulty sport rankings that were put out. And they took 10 categories: skills, athleticism is accounted for, obviously. And then they take other things and they come up with a degree of difficulty number for each sport from 1 to 100. On that scale, what do you think the number one degree of difficulty sport would be? It would take a good bit of stamina, but also a lot of hand-eye coordination. That's a lot of sports. I don't know if that really narrows it down.
That narrows it down.
But you would also have to be tough to play.
Is it like
this.
some form of fighting?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It is.
I don't like fighting, so.
There's your hint.
Like MMA, boxing?
Boxing is actually
okay.
number one, but right behind that is ice hockey.
I could see it.
Yeah.
The endurance of having to skate all the time and then having to have the hand-eye coordination to do what you do with the stick and the puck.
Now,
body check people.
Coming in number 3 is football, American football.
Not that Canadian pansy stuff they play.
No. Nobody's getting a 15-yard sprinting start.
I'm not
before
playing
we
a
run
sport where
play.
you have a rouge.
Yeah. And
not
by the
doing that.
way, put your goalposts where they're supposed to be.
In the back of the end zone.
Yeah. I was about to say this is America, but they do it.
And I don't need a legal procedure on every single play.
No.
As wide receivers are running towards the line of scrimmage.
So stupid. And how many downs do they have?
Like 17.
Yeah. Dumb mascots. Football is number 3. Basketball is 4. Wrestling comes in at 5, followed by martial arts, tennis, gymnastics all the way down the list. Now,
That
how is
surprises me.
gymnastics not higher?
See, when you first started talking about the endurance, I mean, I'm thinking like balance beam.
Yeah.
I'm thinking stuff like
yeah.
that. I mean,
The bars,
that's
the
very
vault.
difficult.
Alpine skiing is down the list. Water polo, are you kidding me? Rugby? See, rugby would be there at the top as far as the
I
toughest
agree.
physically
Have you ever
demanding.
tried to play water polo?
I have no,
probably
but I'll
hard.
tell you the equivalent. I've been in the deep end of a pool without hanging on to the side, holding on to the 12-ounce can and keeping those feet moving where I could stay above water back in the day, and that's pretty demanding.
It's a good
No,
equivalent.
have you played water polo?
I tried.
Did you really?
It was awful.
They had like a league here?
No, it was well, actually we did we had inner tube water polo. That was one of the intramural sports that we played.
Oh, I'm down with that.
Against fraternities.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And so one time we were like, oh, you don't need these inner tubes. You don't need these. What are you talking about?
That's the last time.
Oh, are you kidding me? I was like going, and then watching the Olympics, and then you see what goes on underneath the water.
Yeah.
Like that you don't see the underwater cameras grab of them like pulling your Speedos and putting fingers in places they don't need to be put. No thanks. Not playing that.
Well, speaking of that, bowling was way down this list as well. So
That makes sense.
That's why you do that every Tuesday night.
that's exactly right. Well, if you walk into a bowling alley, I'm not saying that there aren't people that are in shape, but
I was just referring to you. I was referring to Gringo and everybody else.
no, me for sure. That's why I do it. No, I can just roll in there. It's nice, and you ever notice at bowling alley it's about 63 degrees in there,
Yes, climate controlled.
nice and
beautiful.
cold. If you ever just want to cool off on a hot day here in the state of Alabama, find a bowling alley to go into.
Yep.
You take a nap, get
It's been
you
a long
something from
time
the
since I've
snack
been
bar.
bowling.
And depending on what bowling alley you go to in Birmingham, you depending on the day of the week, you might end up swimming.
You always bring that up, but yes, it's happened only 13 or 14 times.
That's all.
In the history of that place.
All right, so the NCAA Rules Committee, they are meeting next week, the Football Rules Committee, and they always do this the final days of February. They're going to discuss possible rule changes for the upcoming season. It is widely expected that one of those changes that they will discuss is to stop players from faking injuries. One of the proposed ideas, rather than sitting out a play, any player who causes a stoppage due to injury should sit out the rest of the series. You like this? You against it? Is there a better way to try to police it, in your opinion?
So if somebody goes out with an injury or goes down with an injury, they have to sit out the remainder of the series.
Correct.
Yeah, because there's no way that
If you have
can
to be if you have to be tended to,
right.
and you have the medical staff come out and assist you in any way, shape, or form, even if you hop up and you're good to go and you run off the field, if they come on the field, that is stoppage of play, and that player has to be removed for the rest of the series.
Yeah,
I'm fine with
and
it.
it's not perfect, and I can see the arguments that are going to come against it. But I've racked my brain. You can't, after the fact, you what are you going to do? You're going to go and ask a doctor. You got HIPAA and everything else. Was he actually hurt? Was he actually injured? That's going to be your word versus theirs. So, and it's prevalent. And I do believe, like a lot of coaches do, I saw it consistently on the sidelines at last year with UAB and different opponents that the Blazers were playing. And it's so blatant, but the referees at this point, you don't have a rule. They know what's going on. The coaches know what's going on. You see trainers laughing with the guys that are tending to him on the field. The fans know what's going on. So, yeah, I think that this might be the most feasible, fair way to do it.
But don't you agree something has to be done?
Something needs to be done.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if we can just move that over into soccer.
Good luck.
It is amazing when you see it happen in soccer. It is almost like there's a sniper in the top of the stands that has just
The
taken
flailing.
somebody out.
For
You know
those
what I'm
watching
saying?
on Jocks TV, it's,
Oh,
yes.
I mean, it's
That's
just
beautiful.
like,
oh, amputate it. They're going to amputate it right there on the field, on the pitch.
it is just amazing.
We're gonna have to take it off. Sorry.
It's fun.
And then
isn't it
all of a
funny?
sudden, that miracle spray,
It works every time.
and then boom,
Yeah.
Pepe's back up there.
Well, not to mention the fact that how many Canadians and Americans did you see like go flailing down last night after getting hip checked into the boards, or all the other
Tell you what.
shenanigans that was going on?
Out there on that ice last night, you better not stay down long. You can get
Yeah.
a digit taken off by one of those skates.
Mm.
No, those guys are tough.
They're very tough. I'm just amazed at the back in the old days, like everyone had messed up grills. You know what
Yeah.
I'm talking about?
I was thinking the same thing last night.
And last night I'm like, well, man,
Oh,
they got,
perfect Freddie Freeman teeth on
they got-
every one of them.
like they all got veneers. They
Yeah.
all, I mean, they're like, well, man, these people. Are
Oh,
some-
Kachuk, when he kept smiling and they were showing the shot, it's like, oh yeah, like those are all.
Yeah, I just remember Jerome stay out of my yard, Bouchard for the Birmingham Bulls.
Yeah,
And all those wonderful tough dudes, man. Broken noses.
he didn't have a natural tooth in his head.
Probably not. He was good, man. That was fun times.
I wouldn't do that to his face though. He'd take you
No.
out.
No,
That dude was tough.
very much so. He was worth the price of admission. I'll tell you that. You're talking about an enforcer.
Ooh.
You thought the Kachuk brothers were something.
Yeah. I learned a good bit last night about hockey.
Well, let's see if it lasts. Let's see if
I will not be tuning in tomorrow to
let's
watch
see
the
it-
NHL
Let's see
as
if
play
you'll
resumes.
buy the what's the package called for the NHL? You know what I'm talking about? You got Sunday ticket
Yeah.
for the NFL. You got
Frozen
skate
Frenzy.
slate.
you've got extra innings package for Major League Baseball.
Mm-hmm.
So they it's called something. I see it pop up on my direct TV all the time.
Line change. No.
I don't know what's called.
Slap shot.
I was just curious if you were going to buy a package.
I will not be buying a package.
When we come back on Three Man Front, do you remember when we were chastising the Texas A&M basketball uniforms? Do you remember that?
Yeah. They were awful.
And we tweeted out the picture, and universally, our audience was like, "Oh my God, those are the absolute worst uniforms I have ever seen anywhere." We have got it topped. This is absolutely the most disgusting, worst thing you have ever seen when it comes to a sports uniform. We're going to share that with you. We're going to tweet it out. Indiana and Miami basketball. If you thought what you saw last week, was it last week? Or the week before? Whatever it
The week
was.
before, yeah.
Was bad.
Yeah.
Just wait till you get a load of this. That's next on Three Man Front. It is 122, Jocks 94.5. The Courtesy GMC text line is open. We will get to your text messages momentarily. 205-834-9450. Molly is about to tweet out at the 3-Man Front Twitter page, and you will be able to see what we're about to talk about. So an article that came out said the University of Miami and Indiana University and the University of Kansas basketball programs will be getting custom uniforms and off-court apparel as part of their partnership with Adidas and Fear of God. The uniforms and apparel are designed by Fear of God founder Jerry Lorenzo. Fear of God Athletics' latest NCAA capsule will debut over the next week as each school plays its rival games. The Indiana Deep Charcoal alternate uniforms with red lettering was met with pushbacks from fans last week. That was the ones that we were talking about that Texas A&M had, and so did Indiana. So a lot of people did not like those uniforms that Indiana wore. So we just tweeted out the picture. As of right now, you go to the number 3-Man Front, and you can see the uniforms that was distributed to Indiana and Miami. If you are a fan of Indiana, here is good news for you. Indiana was supposed to wear it at their women's game yesterday, and I guess they got to look at them in person, and they said, no, thank you. And Indiana women said, we will not be wearing that. And now Indiana men's basketball has decided they will not wear that uniform that we have just tweeted out. And since then, now that was a screenshot of Adidas basketball when they tweeted that out on February the 16th at 5:11 p.m. It is no longer on the Adidas
Yeah, it looks like they
Twitter
deleted
feed.
it. Mm-hmm.
So that is a screen grab, like I said, from February the 16th. Your initial impressions, Landrum, of what you see of Indiana and Miami's version of Fear of God collection.
I'm looking at, so is it misleading with the mannequins that they show in the picture? Are they just trying to make it to where you can't see the face? Because when you initially look at it, hear me out, the entire, I don't know if that's the whole get up, but there were leggings on that particular mannequin.
Mm-hmm.
The shorts. First of all, if you just go back to the Texas A&M look, and
Yeah,
I'm
that was
asking,
that was bad enough.
I'm asking this in not trying to be funny. Is Adidas, are they trying to get out of the uniform business?
Are they trying to lose business?
Who wants to wear that? I can't see any kid, women's basketball, men's basketball, that goes, yeah, wow, we're going to look so good in those tomorrow. Looks terrible. But this depiction I'm looking at, and with it saying Fear of God, I'd like to know where they came up with that name. It looks like a burqa that the mannequin is wearing. Does it not?
No, it does. It says no reason was given for the decision to not wear them. The women's team planned to wear the specifically designed Adidas jersey Thursday night against Ohio State, and the men were planning on wearing them against Penn State on February the 26th. Indiana even put out videos of the teams receiving their new Fear of God apparel on their social media channels as late as Wednesday. But those videos that were taped earlier in the week have since been taken down, just like what Molly says that Adidas has taken down the screen grab that we were able to capture before they deleted it, and that's what we sent out on social media. The decision to scrap the uniforms was made late Thursday afternoon. The Hoosiers wore their traditional white jerseys against Ohio State last night at the women's game. So we'd love to hear from you, your thoughts on that. Molly, what do you think of what you've seen? You're a fashionista.
Well, those are not very fashionable. I'm with Landrum on this. Whoever is designing Adidas uniforms this year needs a serious talking to, because those are horrible. And
don't you think this is worse than the ones before?
Like the Texas A&M one?
Yes.
I don't know. That one's pretty bad. This one's bad, but Texas A&M one was pretty bad.
So I'm reading here that a guy's named Jerry Lorenzo.
Right.
He launched the Fear of God in 2013, and people were asking, does this have anything to do with the religious association or anything to do with spirituality? And he said, no, it's actually not. I don't know, but there's other brands like he's got or other lines that he has called the Eternal. It's interesting that
the choice of
the choice of what all of this is, but all the names are anyways.
Okay, so I found the Fear of God brand online. If you want a crocodile embossed leather jacket, how much do you think that'll run you for?
$3,000.
$5,000.
$5,000.
This is like
their stuff is very
crank up the music.
If you want a tank top, just a black tank top, how much do you think that is?
$350.
Is there a number with my name on the back of it? We'll just ask the
This
schools.
is just
That Molly will run you $215.
unfortunately, you're both wrong. $600.
$600 for a tank top.
Yes, that literally is a
Tank top.
tank top.
Mm.
And it almost looks like what the Fear of God Miami jersey and the Indiana jersey looks like. So just go over to the 3-Man Front Twitter page at the number 3-Man Front, and we'd love your opinion on these uniforms that apparently Indiana said, nope, not going to do it, after they had already put out a bunch of social media stuff of them getting their jerseys. It's just, yeah, goes without saying. It's a very odd collection, but Indiana said, no, thanks.
Well, good for Indiana.
Now we'll see if Miami and can you imagine Kansas?
No.
Kansas.
And Kansas has worn some really terrible uniforms.
Yeah, but
that, no.
Could you see Alabama, Auburn?
Come on.
UAB, Sanford? No, nobody would wear these.
No. No way.
No way. Not a chance.
Now, could I see like Cal?
Oh, sure. Anything for a buck. Are you kidding me?
I don't mean Coach Cal either. I mean Cal is cool.
Yeah,
Oh,
the
man.
Bears.
Yeah. Cal, though, anything for a buck. He might wear. No. Sport coat guy.
Yes.
We don't need to see those guns
No.
while you're walking your dog.
All right, we'll do some Pat Ponders next. This is 3-Man Front on Jocks 94.5. The listeners of Jocks 94.5, they never disappoint on the text line, nor do they on the Twitter at the number 3-man front. We tweeted out a picture of the Fear of God Adidas uniforms that they had sent to Indiana and Miami. Now, Indiana has said, we're not wearing those.
No. And good for IU.
Now, I don't know if the Cavender twins will be wearing the Fear of God uniform this season for the Miami women's basketball team. Kansas supposedly also got that kit that we tweeted out.
If the Cavender sister who's dating, was it Haley? Carson?
Sure.
Yeah, one of them.
We never get that
idea.
right.
Haley, Hannah, whoever.
It's like me in New Mexico State.
But the report that came out when their cars were stolen and apparently they broke the thieves broke in the middle of the night.
Yeah, middle of the night.
And they stole stuff from inside the house.
Yeah.
Do you think if she had that Fear of God jersey out, they would just leave it behind?
The Fear of God would have been put in them, and they wouldn't have stolen them.
Exactly right. They'd come to Jesus that night.
Absolutely. They'd drop to their knees and go, what have I done?
What are we doing here?
Yeah, please forgive me. Wow.
I don't think that's what Lorenzo was going for, according to these articles that I'm reading about him.
No.
That's unfortunate.
All right, let's end the week with some Pat Ponders brought to you by Courtesy GMC. Brought to you by Courtesy GMC and Trussville. Get by and see them this weekend. It's going to be a little bit warmer. It's going to be a great opportunity for you to go see Drew Lawley, Josh Gargis, and the fantastic team there at Courtesy GMC. You're not going to find a lower and best deal anywhere in this Southeast than GMC there at Courtesy GMC. Question number 1, did last night's Four Nations final motivate you to watch more NHL this season?
For me, absolutely. But I've always loved hockey, so.
I will give, because I've heard playoff hockey is a time to watch if you don't watch hockey. So I'm open to it. I'm not committing to it, but I am open to watching some playoff hockey.
Oh, just playoff hockey, not like regular season NHL.
Well, no, not regular season.
Okay.
Also, that package is center ice.
Center ice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Question number 2. Last year, Northern Insights, it's a Canadian research company, conducted a national survey in the country to find out which sport Canadians watch the most. Needless to say, hockey was the most watched according to this survey. Now, what is your perception of what our neighbors to the north watch the most after hockey based on this survey? Hockey was number 1 at 39%. What came in at number 2? What Canadians watch on television, sports-wise?
Ice hole fishing.
Did you say ice hole fishing?
Yes.
That did not make the top 5 now.
All right.
See, my next guess would be like baseball or basketball because you have some teams up there. So maybe baseball.
So you go, is baseball your final answer?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll go CFL.
You're going to go CFL. According to Northern Insights, hockey came in at 39%. Coming in at number 2 was football, both the Canadian and the National Football League combined, 17%. Coming in at 12%, it was a tie between soccer and baseball.
There it is.
Now, this is one that I think the Trump administration should consider, the statistic, this next one I'm going to give you, because I'm not sure if you want to admit a state into the union that in which 11% of your population say they do not watch sports at all.
Nope.
That's a real thing.
11%. Matter of fact, more people in this survey say that we do not watch sports at all in Canada, where basketball was 9%. And
hey, there it is.
And then what happens? They start procreating. A generation from now, there's no sports.
There's no sports talk stations.
They just pass it on from generation to generation.
We don't have a job. We don't have a job.
No.
It's over.
Oh, what are you going to watch? How are you going to unwind? You going to meet up with your buddies and what? Do what?
Play darts.
Drop a line down in a hole.
Ice hole.
Sit around in a little shack.
Drink beer.
Drink some Labatt's.
That's your thing? Eat some
Maple
pickled
syrup.
herring.
That surprised me. 11% said we just don't watch sports.
What do you think the population is here? Doesn't watch sports.
I'm sure I can find that number somewhere, but
Like any sports.
But 11% said none. Like,
I guess those people are out there. I don't trust them.
probably not listening to this show.
Maybe. We talk about other things in sports.
Yes, yeah, you got something you're going to talk about in a few minutes. It's
that's
pretty interesting.
It's public service is what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, next question. By next season, how many of the 16 Southeastern Conference football teams will still be playing a traditional spring football game? Not this spring,
But
next spring. How many of the 16 will be still playing the traditional spring game?
Maybe like half?
I don't even. I
don't even know if it'll be that much.
I think it'll be less than half because this will start the ball rolling.
Yeah.
So if they're not going to do it, if Georgia jumps on board and says
Then-
we're canceling G-Day, then again, Alabama, Auburn, Florida,
Yeah.
they'll follow suit. I don't think it.
Maybe like a fourth?
So
I think Vanderbilt will probably still have a spring game.
Maybe.
The number I will say you'll have 3 teams.
I'll go 4.
3 teams still playing.
Vanderbilt being one of those.
A spring game.
Yes.
You don't have to give me the teams, but
Okay.
3.
Yeah, there'll be 3.
Molly says 4.
Yeah, I'll go 4.
Okay. I think it's going to be a little bit more than that.
Do you?
It's going to take a little while,
Mm-hmm.
but ultimately it will completely all go away. Or nobody will have it, including Vandy.
Oh.
Question number 4. What's the most ridiculous mascot in the SEC? It could be the primary or a secondary team mascot or nickname.
Well, what is Ole Miss?
That's a good one.
Are they the Black Bears this week? Are they the Land Sharks?
Are they that
Are they the
locomotive?
Rebels? Are they Juice Kiffin? I mean, like, what are they?
What are they?
I can't answer that.
Yeah, probably Ole Miss because they have like 5. I just never know which one it is.
So, but which one's the most ridiculous? That's the question. Which
Ole
one
Miss.
is the most? Which one?
Which one of those is the most ridiculous?
All of them. I mean, okay, fine. The land shark. I think that's the one that they use now.
Yeah, that was it. I thought
I mean, because like when you go outside, and maybe Molly experienced this, when you go outside the Southeastern Conference footprint, people are very confused. Like, why does Alabama have an elephant, but they're called the Crimson Tide? Why does Auburn have an eagle flying around the stadium, but they're called the Tigers?
That's true.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
No, I get that.
So there are a lot of confused people outside the Southeastern Conference at that. So that was the kind of how my thought process of this
No,
question.
that's a good question. Yeah.
I'm trying to.
No, but I still think Ole Miss is a good answer because a lot
Like,
of
for
people
instance,
still call
if
them the
Conrad
Rebs.
was here, because neither one of you guys, but if Conrad was here, he would immediately say it's the Milkman for Texas A&M.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Okay, I wasn't thinking about the milkman, but yeah.
So see,
Can that be my vote? Milkman.
absolutely. I mean, she wants to crap on Ole Miss all the time.
I mean, it's
Yeah, I
all of
do.
them.
Yeah.
Looks like they're going to go either deliver milk or potentially paint a house.
Or they look like Jack LaLanne.
They really do.
See?
They do. I know it's an honor.
It is.
We get told that all the time. It's an honor to be a milkman.
It's an elected position.
Mhm.
I discovered.
Who was it famous that you said was a milkman?
Rick Perry, the former
Perry.
governor of the state of Texas who ran for president.
I'll have the choreography down by fall, kids.
We'll work on it.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, fifth and final question of the week. What's the weirdest food combination you enjoy?
I don't really eat a lot of weird foods. I guess I'm a really picky eater.
But is there a food that you put some type of sauce on, or you put ketchup on your scrambled eggs?
Ugh,
I got this from my
no.
grandfather. He used to do
A
it.
peanut butter and banana sandwich?
No.
I don't
Absolutely
do it as much anymore. I did this as a kid because I saw my grandfather do it, and he would put mayonnaise on his green beans.
Ugh,
And that's generally the reaction that
that's
I get.
vile.
How about a mayonnaise and tomato sandwich?
Love it.
Ugh.
I love mayonnaise.
My dad eats those all
Yep.
the time.
See, I don't like
A
mayo.
fresh sliced tomato, some salt, some pepper, a little bit of mayonnaise on the side, a little red onion. Come on. All about it.
Molly?
Try
See,
not
the only
consume
thing
too
that
much
I
mayonnaise.
can think of, I haven't eaten this in years. Like probably since before we moved to Michigan, was growing up for some reason. I liked peanut butter and cheese sandwiches because again, I was a picky eater. So I'd smack some peanut butter on there and throw.
So you were a picky eater, but you were eating a peanut butter and cheese sandwich?
Yeah, like when I was 5. Again, not anymore. I will
That
not
is
eat
a
it
very
now.
That is an odd combination.
I've never
Yeah.
heard that.
Very odd.
That's
Mm.
You look in the fridge. All right, what we got to eat today?
You could
I got a
be-
Kraft single.
You could be a serial killer.
yeah.
No,
That's
I really couldn't.
that's very weird.
What about you?
I used to love peanut butter and banana sandwiches.
Ugh.
Wasn't Elvis peanut butter and banana?
It's that Tupelo thing.
It is that Tupelo thing.
Mm-hmm. Sure is.
I've heard some weird stuff. People putting cheese slice on a Pop-Tart.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm. You know, I told you about the mayonnaise, and I'll eat mayonnaise on a sandwich, and then the mayonnaise every now and then on the green beans. Really more so when I was a kid, but some of the things that I see people putting on their food.
Where are you on ketchup and on scrambled eggs?
I don't really prefer ketchup at all.
Me
Now, if
neither.
I'm using it to make a sauce, yeah, cocktail sauce every now and then, but no ketchup on scrambled eggs. Scrambled eggs for me, hot sauce I'm fine with. I like to put a little Cavender's Greek seasoning
I like
in my
hot
scrambled
sauce.
eggs
Mhm.
for sure. But I know some people, well, there are 2 people in particular that will put balsamic on. Just like, really? Balsamic? But I'm not going to judge.
Coming from someone that's putting cheese on a
Guys,
peanut
I
butter
was
sandwich.
like 5.
No, well, you're
No,
still like
still
5.
Yeah, you still do that.
don't.
Molly.
I don't.
Can't
don't
you
buy
see
those
her
anymore.
toting a half
Absolutely.
eaten peanut butter
I
and
do
cheese
not do
sandwich, walking around in her onesie?
Now?
Yeah. Now.
Does she go to those conventions?
Yeah. 5 o'clock shadow, beard on her face.
All right, that's this week's Pat Ponders, brought to you by Courtesy GMC and Trustful. I know they were very proud of that segment. Go by and see them right off of exit 32 I-459 there in Trustful.
We see good, we see bad. Depends on how you take this next story. The worst thing I've seen is next.
It's 151 Jocks 94.5 on this Friday. The text line is exploding right now. We appreciate everyone. We're going to try to get to as many of those as we can in a moment as we get ready to hand it off to the Paul Feinbaum show at the top of the hour.
How about our friends at Prize Picks? Download the app today, the Prize Picks app. You can make fantasy sports and daily interaction with different sports, even if you don't particularly watch those sports all the time. Kind of like me with hockey. I watched hockey last night, and that leads me to one of my plays this weekend with Prize Picks. But first of all, you go to Prize Picks, you download the app, and when you do that, you fill out your information, you set up your account, you enter promo code WJOX, your first $5 play, win or lose, you're going to get $50 instantly back to your account. So once again, download the app, set up your account, your first $5 play, win or lose, you're going to get $50 instantly back to your account. Our friends at Prize Picks, there's a chance to win 1,000 times your money. You just pick at least a couple of matchups and you can be a winner. You're just going to say more or less. So this is out there, and because of hockey and what I saw last night, and I'm new to the game, but you guys tell me this. Sidney Crosby, coming up tomorrow, more or less than 2.5 shots on goal?
I'm going to go less.
You're going to say less? All right, I'm riding with you here.
I'll go more.
Well, we have to decide. I have to.
Oh, okay,
I have
fine,
to do
less.
this. All right, so we're going to go less.
I thought we were okay. Never mind.
How about Connor McDavid?
Oh, that's more.
Three
I
shots.
don't even know what the number.
Three shots on goal.
That's
more or less.
Yeah.
So we'll go more there. So Sidney Crosby will go less, and then Connor McDavid will go more. It's that simple. You hit both of them, you're going to win. Prize Picks, it is a great way to enjoy daily sports action throughout the sports calendar. Drake and so many of our Jocks listeners have taken us up on this. Just make sure you enter promo code WJOX. You're going to get that $50 back instantly on the $5 play, win or lose.
Well, Wallace State men's and women's basketball both defeated Southern Union last night, and the men remain in first place in the ACCC standings. Both teams remain at home to host Coastal Alabama on Monday in Huntsville as they head into the final week of the regular season. So for more information on the Lions, go to athletics.wallacestate.edu.
Because of Pat Ponders and the question he asked about the weird food combinations that we all personally have, I'm going to go to the text line. So I'm calling an audible here.
There you
I'm going to go to the text line, 205-834-9450. And Steve from Tuscaloosa says, Molly, great selection on bumper music.
Thank you.
Hashtag Dad Rock.
Love it. Dad Rock is my favorite rock.
NHL Center Ice, thank you for all of those responses. That is the subscription package that they offer for that. Someone asking, because of the injury proposal that's up in college football, can we get the flopping rule added and enforced in high school football? There's some teams that like to go fast, and that happens a lot. Right, Pat? Somebody asking you particularly.
Yes, you are correct.
Landrum, has Molly ever been to a Birmingham, I'm guessing they meant Bulls hockey game over in Pelham?
No, I have not.
You like hockey?
I do. I've been wanting to go. Same with the Huntsville Havoc, since I've been home.
The other option, which does not make as much sense, has Molly ever been to a Birmingham boys hockey game? Maybe so.
No, but in college, the minor league team in Lincoln, they're the Lincoln Stars. And me and my friends, we would go to their games a lot.
Pat also asked a question during Pat Ponders. How many SEC teams by next season will not be having spring games? And this one says it will be the top SEC teams.
The top SEC teams will still be playing?
Will not have them.
Oh, will not have them. Okay.
Michael says the most ridiculous mascot is Ole Miss.
Again, which one?
He says bring back the Rebel.
I don't think that's possible.
He says at least Alabama's mascots have a story. Paul says LSU baseball, let's go. GEAUX. Hey, Paul. Hope you're doing well. Go Tigers. Josh Smith, though they are in the ACC, not to be confused with the SEC, said it's got to be the Stanford Christmas tree.
The Cardinal.
That one is terrifying.
Josh in Huntsville says the Merry Milkmen are just a bunch of ice holes. LOL. Another Josh, thanks to all of the Joshes that listen to our show.
We're very big with the Joshes.
Uh-huh. Josh says Quincy's yeast rolls and nacho cheese sauce.
Quincy's yeast rolls. Those were awesome. Those were incredible.
Just go in there and just eat yeast rolls.
Yes. I had plenty of fraternity brothers that they would not buy any other food. They would just eat off what was brought to the table. It was like Olive Garden and the breadsticks, you know?
Yes. This is different. Randy with his weird food combination, but I'm not going to hate it because I like both of these. Ruffles potato chips dipped. Oh, this is going to get everybody. In cottage cheese.
Ooh.
No, thank you.
Ooh.
Ooh, I've heard this one and I'm going to try it. Butter beans with cornbread and mayonnaise is off the chain.
Huh.
I'll try it. Posey says chocolate covered pickles.
That's an interesting combination.
Another one got a great weird food combo. Tuna, pasta, chopped pickles, chopped cheese, mustard and mayo. Mix, chill, and eat. Very good, even though it sounds terrible.
Can you
Absolutely
imagine
not.
the smell of that?
No.
Ketchup on saltine crackers.
Haven't tried that.
Mayo and butter beans or black-eyed peas. That's another vote for that one. Kyle says, my kids watch Bluey and start eating cheese and jam sandwiches, just a slice of cheese, strawberry jam, and bread. I'll pass. And I'll read this one to y'all off the air. It's great. There are so many more. Paul's next.